सर आवाज़
हेलो हेलो हेलो।
मास्टर गिर गया था, इधर ही रख दीजिए क्वेश्चन आंसर के लिए। हाँ
ये क्यों नहीं विजिबल हो रहा?
फास्ट वाला भी चाहिए होगा वैसे अपलोड करवाने के लिए, तो आप कह रहे हैं कि उसके लिए अलग करना पड़ेगा?
नहीं, मेरे कहने का मतलब ये है कि अगर ये 5 Mbps अपने लैंड ले रखे हैं तो ये इसी के लिए यूज़ होना चाहिए। ठीक है, अगर आपको एक्स्ट्रा चाहिए तो इसको 10 Mbps और अपग्रेड करा दीजिए, 15 Mbps पे आप सारा कुछ हो जाए।
फिर उसके बाद बेसिकली फिर इससे वाईफाई भी क्रिएट कर लोगे तो भी प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, ये स्ट्रीमिंग ठीक रहेगी।
हाँ,
दैट्स द थिंग।
5 Mbps बहुत
भाई आकाश एक बात, ये 5 में हमारी स्ट्रीमिंग सही चल रही है ना?
हाँ स्ट्रीम ठीक है, हाँ स्ट्रीम लाइव ठीक चलेगी।
ये डिफरेंट वाले उसमें मतलब ये तो साइन इन कर रखा है, इससे डिफरेंट साइन इन से वो कर रहे हैं तो उनका काम नहीं बन रहा है वहाँ पे, फोटोज वगैरह ट्विटर पे अपलोड नहीं हो रही हैं।
वो वाईफाई से कर रहे होगा ना, वाईफाई नॉट रिलायबल, क्योंकि बड़ी अगर फाइल है तो वो 5 Mbps
ट्वीट की फोटो कितनी बड़ी होगी यार, वो खुद सोचो ना।
5 Mbps नॉट रिलायबल, क्योंकि ये पहले भी बता दिया होगा बुकिंग से पहले आपको। ये वाईफाई जो है ना, ये सिर्फ इसलिए है कि जैसे कि यहाँ पे किसी का नेट नहीं चलता है यूट्यूब वगैरह ओपन करने के लिए, गूगल वगैरह ओपन करने के लिए।
तो मैं मान रहा हूँ कि आपका वो वैसे ही इतना को कम चल रहा है।
ट्वीट की फोटो कितनी होगी यार? आधे एमबी की तो फोटोज होती है ट्वीट की, और कितनी होगी वो अपलोड नहीं हो रही है। चैट जीपीटी से उसको रिस्पांस नहीं मिल रहा है तो बताओ, वो तो फिर तो प्रॉब्लम है ना भाई। करके दिखाए कुछ कल इसके साथ चलो। अरे बात वो नहीं है ना, वो स्पीड कभी भी गिर जाती है, फिर क्या करोगे?
ये लाइव है,
ट्वीट नहीं हो रहा, बताओ ट्वीट
माइक पे हेलो हेलो का नजर आ रही है।
वो तो प्रॉब्लम है ना, स्पीड ऊपर नीचे होती रहती है। लेकिन आपकी बात समझ गया भाई? सुन, वो इनको वो स्पीड टेस्ट करने के लिए जरा ये उधर
कौशन कौशन हेलो हेलो तो बोल।
नहीं ना, फोन कर रहा हूँ, शुरू होने वाला है। कौन कौन Exactly. There is nothing you can do about it.
हाँ बंद करो।
Just jot it down. Just jot that any important point down. Just do so the thing is you just make sure the pieces are predictable.
क्या हो गया?
But just do one kind.
हाँ
ऑडियो को देखो डिसेबल करो।
हाँ
Another 7 or 8 minutes.
कनेक्ट रहता है फिर वही नहीं होता, मेन्यू नहीं आता।
नहीं है।
इसके बाद उधर से करते हैं।
अभी नहीं चल रहा, इंटरनेट आ गया ना। अरे काम करो, अरे स्पीड टेस्ट तो ठीक है, एक काम करो, वो एक अब तेरा इंटरनेट है, साइन इन कर एंड जस्ट मेक इट ट्वीट करके देख, पता लग जाएगा। हाँ भाई, एकदम माय फेवरेट one speaker.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Director General USI, I, Commander Bhavna Salaria, extends a warm welcome to each one of you present here to Day 2 of the Indian Military Heritage Festival 2024. Through this festival, we honor the valor of our defense forces, preserve the legacy of India's military history, and foster a culture of resilience and unity. It is a pleasure to have you all here for this important discussion on India and aerospace power. Discover how advancements in aerospace technology pave the way through a more resilient, self-reliant and stronger India. Our esteemed panelists shall provide invaluable insights into our nation's journey in the aerospace domain. This session shall focus on India's progress within the sphere of aerospace technology over the years and outline the next steps for India to achieve the vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat in this critical field. May I request Dr. Ashik Ahmed Iqbal to please join us on the stage. Dr. Ashik Ahmed Iqbal is a historian of modern South Asia. He is the author of The Aeroplane and the Making of Modern India, which studies India's transformation from colony to sovereign republic through the prism of aviation. He has also written articles on history for general audience on a number of platforms including India Forum, EPW Engage and Teacher Plus. Dr. Ashik hails from the hill station of Ooty. He took his BA in history from Loyola College, Chennai. He received his MA and MPhil in modern history at Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi, and also holds DPhil in history from the University of Oxford. He has received multiple scholarships including the Felix Scholarship, the Royal Historical Society Marshall Fellowship, and the Maulana Azad National Fellowship. Please join me in welcoming Air Marshal Anil Chopra, Param Vishesh Seva Medal, Ati Vishesh Seva Medal, Vayu Sena Medal, Vishesh Seva Medal on the stage, please. A fighter pilot, qualified flying instructor, guest pilot, and a pioneer of Mirage 2000 fleet, who has commanded a Mirage 2000 squadron and the Flight Test Center, aircraft and systems testing establishment of the Indian Air Force. He has been the team leader of MiG-21 Bison upgrade project in Russia for over 4 years. He has commanded operational air bases in both western and eastern sectors. He was head of Indian Air Force in JNK and head of operational inspections of the Indian Air Force. Excuse me. Retired as Air Force Officer in Charge Personnel, he has been a member of the Armed Forces Tribunal, Lucknow Bench, and member of the Executive Council of Jawaharlal Nehru University. He is former Director General's Center for Air Power Studies, an avid writer who has more than 950 articles published in various magazines, newspapers, web portals, and books. He is often invited for TV debates on both English and Hindi news channels as defense analyst. He is also on seminar and university lecture circuit. Currently, he is a strategic advisor aerospace with Society of Indian Defense Manufacturers. May I call upon Professor Dr. D.K. Pandey to please join us on stage. Professor Dr. D.K. Pandey was the group captain in Indian Air Force. He has served the Indian Air Force for more than 3 decades. He has experience of more than 2,500 air combats. In the course of his service, he undertook AD operations in the Western, J&K and Northeast sectors. He has commanded 6 air defense units and was awarded Best Unit Trophies Choice. He was Director Air Staff Inspections and retired as Director Joint Control and Analysis Center. He was commended by Chief of Air Force and Air Officer Commanding in Chief Western Air Command and Southwestern Air Command. He was Associate Dean and Professor at the School of Business at Galgotias University. He has written more than 100 research papers for journals and websites. He is currently a Senior Fellow at CAPS, a member of the Advisory Council of Greater Noida Institute of Technology, and a member of the Advisory Board at Foreign Policy School, New Delhi. His study areas are air power, international relations, and strategic geopolitical dynamics. To moderate this session, I request Air Marshal Dr. Rajiv Sachdeva, Ati Vishish Seva Medal, to join us on stage. Air Marshal Dr. Rajiv Sachdeva served as Deputy Chief of Integrated Defence Staff and officiated as Additional Secretary at DMA, MOD. He is a distinguished fellow at I2P2M and certified management instructor by AIMA. Other joint appointments were co-chair DIATF with US for development of niche capabilities, officiated as chairman of DCMG, and steered the project for NFS and DCN. Sir, I request for a group picture before we start the panel discussion, please.
Everyone, I think I'm a little tall, so I can do it with this. Human beings were designed to walk, run, and swim. But for over a century, we are breaking this law, and we are flying. We were not designed for this. The conquest of air stands as one of the humanity's greatest achievements, a testament to our species' relentless pursuit of seemingly something which was impossible. For millennia, human beings gazed at the birds with envy, dreaming of the day when we too could soar above this earth. The dream once relegated to the realm of myth and fantasy like the flying dragons, and we also heard about Pushpa Viman, and it ended there. But it became a reality through a combination of scientific inquiry, technological innovation, and sheer determination. The journey to human flight was not a straight path, but a winding road of trials, errors, and incremental progress. Meticulous studies of bird anatomy, the Montgolfier brothers' hot air balloons, each step brought us closer to understanding the principles that govern flight. 19th century saw a surge in scientific approaches, laying the theoretical groundwork for fixed-wing aircraft and providing crucial data through numerous glider experiences. However, it was the Wright brothers who finally cracked the code of controlled path flight. Their success of 17 December 1903 marked a pivotal moment in the human history when sustained, controlled path flight at Kitty Hawk, North California, made the history in aviation when in a single day, 4 flights with the longest lasting for 59 seconds covered a distance of 852 feet to start the manned path flight journey and change the course of civilization. This achievement was not luck, but the result of years of methodical research, experimenting, and innovation. The implications of this breakthrough were immense and far-reaching. Within a few decades, aviation transformed the warfare, commerce, and culture. The world became smaller as distant land grew more accessible. International trade and diplomacy was revolutionized. The aeroplane became a symbol of modernity and progress, capturing the public imagination and inspiring a new generation of dreams and innovation. In 1905, the Wright Flyer 3, within 2 years, achieved a flight distance of over 20 miles, and the first passenger flight was held within 5 years in 1908. And soon in 1911, the first transcontinental flight across the US was flown. Well, India was not left behind. December 1910, 3 knockdown kits of aeroplanes arrived at Karachi port. They were assembled, and the first flight of aircraft took off to the Indian skies from Allahabad. On February 18, 1911, the first commercial flight in the history of Indian aviation took off from Allahabad for Naini, just a distance of just 10 miles, and holds the distinction of launching the first airmail in the world. The Great War of 1914-18 accelerated the aircraft development and saw rapid advancements in aviation technology due to military needs. This period saw the development of faster and more reliable aircraft as well as innovations like machine guns on airplanes. World War II led to further advancement in aviation, including innovation of jet engines and improved aerodynamics. Late 20th and 21st century have seen a focus on safety improvements, fuel efficiency, and environmental concern. Military demanded aircraft with electronic suits, enhanced warfighting capabilities, and survivability. Well, today we deal with the subject of India building its own aircraft, both for the civil and military use. For this, we have Air Marshal Anil Chopra, Group Captain Dr. Dinesh Pandey, who not only edited the book Road to Atmanirbhar Bharat in Aerospace, but also contributed a chapter or 2 in this book. Well, I was lucky and honored when I was also asked to contribute a chapter in this book, and the chapter said Need for Indigenous MRO in Facility in India. We also have on the panel Dr. Ashik Ahmed Iqbal, who published a book titled The Aeroplane and the Making of Modern India. Dr. Ramachandra Guha, who is a well-known historian and has published over 5 dozen books on history, complimented Dr. Iqbal and said, and I quote, "In viewing the aeroplane as a signifier of modernity and of state power, the book covers a wide canvas, deftly blending social and political history with the history of technology. It closely documents the role of the aeroplane in war and in peace, in private and in public hands. It bridges the colonial and the post-colonial divide and takes seriously the aft-neglected princely states. It provides rich insights on patterns of work, recruitment, and organization in the emerging industry. Although this book is a deeply impressive debut, but a very fine young historian." Unquote. So now let's get into the minds of this young historian, and I'll request Dr. Iqbal to take us to the period when we were under the British rule and were still able to prove ourselves as aviators. Over to Dr. Iqbal.
So what about 7 minutes?
Yep, got it.
Excellent. Can I get some kind of pointer for the slideshow? Or do I just say yes?
Sir, you indicate to him
Right. Thank you everyone for coming in early this morning and choosing to attend this particular panel. Special thanks to Air Marshal for the introduction and to the United Services Institute, in particular to Squadron Leader Rana Chinna for inviting me to talk about my book over here. It's truly an honor to share the days with such a distinguished group of panelists and to be able to speak with professionals in the field. So my book, as you know, is essentially the story of aviation in India from 1939 to 1953, essentially the period from the Second World War to the nationalization of airlines in 1953. I look at both military and civil aviation, and what I'm going to do here is provide you with a very quick overview of the 4 or 5 chapters in the book. I'm happy to take questions about it later on when we have a Q&A session. So can we go to the next slide? So, what was aviation like before the Second World War? In India, it wasn't particularly great. This is the famous photo of Tata on his sort of inaugural air flight. One of the things that he had to do was land at Ahmedabad, which is where this photo was taken. The aeroplane had to be loaded. The aeroplane had to be loaded essentially with petrol that was brought on a roller cart. So the state of Indian aviation at this point was not particularly good, and the British had no intention of investing very heavily in civil aviation outside of connecting Britain to Australia. So if you traveled from Britain to Australia, you had pretty good aerodromes and facilities, but otherwise the British were not actually very keen on connecting India by air. Next slide. Meanwhile, the state of the Indian Air Force was even worse in certain ways. The British created the Indian Air Force explicitly for the purpose of keeping Indians out of the Royal Air Force, because they wanted to keep the Royal Air Force white. Initially, the plan was to give India only one squadron, actually to give India only one flight of aircraft. They were given the Westland Wapiti aeroplane, which you can see in this image. The Westland Wapiti was an outdated aircraft, which was referred to even by the British as the Waterpiti aircraft. It was truly one of the most ramshackle aircraft ever flown. Often Indian pilots, when they sort of flew on the Westland Wapiti, carried pigeons with them to send messages back. The plane was not equipped with radio. The plane often had to kind of be pushed into place. It had starting troubles. And most importantly, Indians were simply not acknowledged necessarily by the British as equals or as members of the armed forces. Indian sort of non-commissioned officers were not referred to as sergeants like their RAF counterparts. They were referred to as Hawaii sepoys. Initially, they had even difficulty getting uniforms. So again, the British were not particularly keen on investing in giving India an air force, because giving India an air force would mean giving India independence, which is something that Indian politicians knew quite well. Next slide, please. So essentially, I'm just going to do a very quick run through of what the book entails. My first chapter argues that the Second World War really sort of revolutionizes aviation. It leads to the construction of a whole lot of aerodromes, expands the Indian Air Force, provides Indian civil aviation with the basis, and it is really only with the Second World War that an Indian aviation sector, however small, comes into existence. Is a highly significant development. Next slide. The second chapter, I look at partition and how the partition of India played out, both in the Indian Air Force and how the Indian Air Force sort of affected partition. Next slide. So this is of course 15th August. Huge flyover. You can see the IAF is already kind of part of the partition celebrations. Next slide. But of course, the happiness of independence is tempered by the tragedy of partition. Even as the Indian Air Force was itself being partitioned into two halves, IAF planes played a critical role in conducting reconnaissance missions, in restoring order, and above all in transferring very important cholera medication to camps that were overwhelmed by refugees. They probably saved tens of thousands, if not millions, of lives with these very important operations. Next slide. The IAF itself, of course, was split into two. I call my chapter IMHF Shakti, partly because number 1 squadron, which is very long, the only squadron in the Indian Air Force, basically gets split. The Pakistanis disbanded in Pakistan. The Indians will raise it later on in the 1950s again. But when the Indians raise it, it will no longer be called Ittihad Mein Shakti, it will be called Ekta Mein Shakti. Next slide, please. The third chapter looks at essentially the war in Kashmir, how this plays out. I don't need to introduce this sort of audience to the importance of air power in Kashmir, but very broadly the argument I make is that air power played a very important role in managing by using aeroplanes, the Indian government was able to overcome certain red lines and to keep the war going for as long as it did. Next slide. The fourth chapter, slide after this please. Next slide. Yeah, so the fourth chapter looks at the Maharajas. I look at Mysore, Hyderabad, and Jodhpur. Here you have Umed Singh, who you can see his two avatars. One is Maharaja, and the other is Air Vice Marshal of the Royal Air Force. The Indian kings invested very heavily in aviation, and if you look at the top aerodromes in India outside the metro cities, they are in Jodhpur, they are in Hyderabad. So the kings were very, very deeply invested in aviation, and the reason for this is because they hoped to be independent one day. They also wanted to show that they were modern, that they were not sort of outdated, and that they had a place in South Asia after the British left. Next slide, please. This is a very nice slide where you can kind of see, modern aeroplanes with sort of traditional Jodhpur pagdis. Next slide. So the final chapter is a chapter where I look at the last 5 years of aviation and how that played out. I talk about how nationalization is really, really important. Next slide, please. So you can see sort of Nehru here. He kind of sees aeroplanes. Airlines happens not because airlines were poor or they were badly run, which to be fair they were, but it also happened because of the security implications of what civil aircraft could mean in a country which had very, very few aircraft. The last slide, please. Yeah. So just very quickly, what are my three conclusions, the big conclusions of the book? One is that aeroplanes play a small but very important role in Indian history in making India free from a colony to a republic. Two, that the aeroplane is important for looking at how the idea of sovereignty gets constructed. The Indian leaders like Jawaharlal Nehru, Vallabhbhai Patel were deeply invested in the idea of India having an air force, of India having powerful airlines if it was going to become independent. Simultaneously, both the Pakistanis and the princes also understood that they would need to have aeroplanes if they wanted to sort of maintain their sovereignty, and went quite far in investing in that. Third and finally, India is actually much more representative of the story of aeroplanes in the world. Right? When we look at histories of aviation, we tend to look at Britain, France, Germany. These are a handful of countries that have most of the aeroplanes in the world. But the fact of the matter is that most countries in the world are like India, which in fact have a handful of aircraft and then have to make do with them, have to prioritize, have to engage in what we in India call jugaad, what people in the Spanish-speaking world call resolver, right? So essentially, the story of India, if you look at the story of India and aeroplanes in India, it's incredibly similar to the story of aeroplanes in Egypt and Peru. So this is just a call for a more inclusive history that doesn't just focus on those countries that have most aeroplanes. Final slide, please. Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Like he just, for the NCC cadets, he just mentioned that you must be all knowing about what happened in 47 with the Kashmir War. If the Indian Air Force had not stepped in, then today we would not have proudly said Kashmir se Kanyakumari tak Bharat le. Maybe we would have said Pathankot se Kanyakumari tak Bharat le. Because the way Kashmir was going away, we would not have had. India has displayed its capability in reaching the moon successfully. We've got the most innovative Mars program going on, and we are ready to send humans to space. However, we are still delivering less than 50% of the military requirement of this country by Make in India, and that to a very low-end technology. Despite the national thrust towards innovation and self-reliance, India is still remaining one of the largest arms importers in the world. On 13th May 2020, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that the country should view the COVID-19 crisis as an opportunity to achieve economic reliance. In his address to the nation, he stressed on the importance of promoting local products and named the mission Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. The mission was not also expected to complement the Make in India initiative, which intends to encourage manufacturing in India and focuses on the importance of promoting local products based on 5 important pillars: economy, infrastructure, system, vibrant demography and demand. The policy approach was to create a conducive environment for investments, develop modern and efficient infrastructure, and open up new sectors for foreign capital, and aimed to transform India into a global design and manufacturing hub. The book, which I've just shown to you, wrote Atmanirbhar Bharat. I forgot, because initially when I was supposed to talk about this book, there were 3 authors on the book, but there's a 4th author right sitting right here. He's also contributed a chapter in this book, Adrian Watts. The book gets a compliment from the chief, and he says, and I quote, "This is a comprehensive analysis of the core competencies and technology India must develop to join the ranks of the world's leading aerospace nations. This book will be an invaluable resource for policymakers as we strive to position India as a prominent player in the aerospace industry." Unquote. Former DGMO, what he says, I quote, it is a relevant and significant addition to the discussion on India's aspirations in the aerospace field that this book addresses. The incisive analysis of essential technologies and capabilities provides valuable and implementable policy recommendations. Unquote. Guru Captain Pandey will now tell us about his contribution to the book, and he was the one who was actually stitching all these chapters together. Over to you, Dinesh.
Thank you, sir. Some nice words. I don't know how much I deserve it. Thanks for getting me here and allowing me to share my thoughts on what we have undergone in a period of about 6 months or so. Actually, before going to deep dive, first I will cover the chapters, how the chapter is slightly. We divided the books in 3 parts. First one was giving impetus to aerospace warfare, wherein we covered aircraft engineering, aircraft production, all the vital aspects of actual operations. Then we speak rules of aerospace operations, the various support services, how they are making aircraft to fly in the air, especially aero engines, hypersonics and EW, then designing next generation aerospace technology, and finally it was supporting aerospace warfare, wherein we have worked for network-centric warfare communication systems, and among the promise, because very soon we will be getting about 200 aircraft plus, and the critical maintenance aspect is going to be very, very vital. So the environment was very important, and it was Mr. Devas here, he was the person who in detail giving the detailed side of the environment, which is basically ignored and presented. And very soon you will see and see how policymakers are going to create the ecosystem for required. Then integrating private players into the defense mission ecosystem, because we have seen the private sector, a lot of technological involvement in different areas. Many startups have come. We'll just go and see the numbers also, because our endeavor was to give basic insight how this whole ecosystem has been created till now, and whether it is really productive or not, and what are the measures required, what are to be initiated to get the required output. The interesting part is all these 12 chapters has given the deep insight, problems, challenges, as well as the way ahead, what Indian Air Force as well as India should do to get the required mission accomplished objectives. Atmanirbharta self-reliance, along with the defense research and development in design and manufacturing, holds significant strategic importance in the current warfare landscape of war. Recent military and geopolitical developments have highlighted the vulnerabilities inherent in global supply lines. Recently, military and geopolitical developments have revealed the fragility of global supply chains. The conflicts like Azerbaijan, Armenia, and Russia, Ukraine have estimated that UAVs and CUS counter UAS, how they are going to counter the basically unmanned threats which are going to be by our forces. Will be game changer in a particular warfare. Learning lessons from these conflicts, all nations, especially RGC threat, are going for either production. Next slide, please. Next slide. Just see this here. I have tried to show you the countries which are already indicating the handling it now. So the color, the whole row we can make out most of the countries are initiating action to either reduce or acquire the drone systems. In view of lessons from RUC, that is Russia-Ukraine conflict, as well as guide down for the shift for importing defense assets, which Siddharth just mentioned, India is making sincere effort to strengthen its drone might. This reinforces India's emphasis over the past 5-7 years on developing India's skill and competencies. Just see the key government initiatives which have been taken to give the emphasis to the ecosystem. Liberalize FDI policy, budget allocation, and this was demand presented in the budget which was shown. The priority for domestic procurement emphasis is based on procuring requisite items for domestic sources. Positive intention list 5 to 9 items that are already listed, which are prohibited for competence, and 5,000 items for defense public sector undertaking to be used. So, efforts were made to give access to our own production system and to discourage getting items from other vendors. Simplified the licensing process. The basic problem was everybody was thinking that the whole process is too long.
It is clumsy and it is very difficult to achieve the objectives as far as licensing concerned. Then innovation for defense excellence to involve startups and MSMEs in defense innovation, public procurement preferences, defense industrial corridors. We all know to promote defense manufacturing, 2 corridors have been already installed, and it is going to take some time because acquisition of land and other things are in process. So very soon you will hear some significant developments. Opening defense R&D, this is a very, very vital part which was overemphasized from a long period. It has been addressed now. Domestic procurement allocation, 75% of the budget has been marked for domestic procurement as far as the year 2014 is concerned. So now, dividends, next slide. The dividends is in the country. The India drone market size was estimated about $1.2 billion
in 2023. During the forecast year 2024 and 2030, Indian drone market size is projected to grow at a rate of 22.15%.
You see, the requirement is there, but how we are doing it. Then next slide, please. Just see how it is spreading in the height of the tower is increasing. And 2030, it is 4.87 USD billion we are expecting. Next slide, please. This is the outcome, whatever initiatives have been taken. The various 16 defense PSUs, 430 license companies, 16,000 MSMEs, and the production graphs in front of you. As far as production is concerned, we started exporting also. The country which was number 1 in the importing list across the globe. Now we are importing to more than 100 nations, and USA, France, and Germany are the first 3 highest takers from us. So dividends are there. Next slide, please. Now, as far as my chapter is concerned, unmanned aerial systems. For long, we were importing all our UAVs and drones, and DRDO was given the task, but it took a lot of time, and many Indian UAVs could not be inducted in armed forces. We all know, as we have learned lessons from prevailing conflicts, future is unmanned and drones have to prove their drones very cheap and effective force multipliers. The critical components remain still important. And the Drone Federation of India is coordinating for the Indian manufacturing system. Let's see how much they can achieve our this. Next slide, please. Then what is the next report? The ground reality is Atmanirbhar Bharat. That is Atma Nahi Bhari. Why? We are saying Atmanirbhar Bharat. Atmanirbhar Nahi. Atmanirbhar Bharat. So we are not satisfied. Although graphs here show how things are increasing. 62% of Indian technology is still sourced from China. So Atmanirbhar Bharat concept changed to China Nirbhar Bharat. And in place of becoming the Bharat Nirbhar Bharat. Endeavor is to make it Bharat Nirbhar Bharat, so that our production lines are within our own international borders. The fact is, Atmanirbharta is Atmanirbhar Bharat, means a lot of must be done. And next slide, please. So what are the reasons basically? Lack of resources is one. Most of the items which are importing because of they are not available in India. Basic spare ingredients are not Indian. When I say this, it means we are importing from is there. And simple economics says demand and supply have to be met for getting the profits. My objective is something as defense forces may be looking for some other objective, but on the ground here it is the private operators, the product, whosoever is producing, they are looking for some profits, some achievements, some dividends. Testing and certification mechanism is yet to be created. Now people are creating the roles, but how much part is Indian? So Indian index could not be. People don't have any proper ecosystem to establish this. So testing and certification system is to be created as early as possible. Although Tamil Nadu corridor is having given us 45 crores, which is having already allotted to initiate the first go to get the centralized central and certification environment. Let's see when it comes. But the problem is, till we get all these resources wherewithal, how to run the show. So in place of getting items from China, because we know how China has gone inside are all the documents and the privacy aspects and data security, all those aspects are highly compromised. Not in India, in other countries wherever China has gone. So what is recommended is, let's explore the non-Chinese origins where these spares are available, and definitely all these systems have to be exposed to electronic warfare environment, because how soft kill has taken control in Russia-Ukraine conflict, we all know. So parallelly when we are designing, then we must look after all these aspects. The comment is, make in India, the word should be design and make in India. Then only you will be able to. So what are the recommendations? Invest in research and strengthen the industry, academia bonding. Why? Because a lot of concepts and studies have been carried out. So what are the outcomes? They have to be pondered upon and see what lessons can be learned as far as our designing and production is concerned. Encourage skill development. Government, private, and startup needs to adopt a strong collaboration approach to make India a role hub. Create testing and certification mechanism as an possible. Positive reforms, reduce bureaucratic hurdles, encourage private sector. Although it may appear that it is ritual or customary to say, okay, reform regulatory system should be profitable, all those things. But one is, it has to be, the required handshake has to be there so that what are objectives are there that can be achieved. Why when I'm saying this, like policies have been made, whether they are really fruitful, what are the actual problems, bottlenecks faced by the operators in the field. That has to be conveyed. So for that, interaction has to be there between all the stakeholders. The stopping channels to imports may be a good first step for India. Till we get Indian drone spare manufacture needs to explore non-Chinese market due to security reasons. Next slide. With this, I will finish and in Q&A, I will take on your questions. Thank you.
Way back in August 2020 was the first negative import list came out of the government of India, which is now known as positive indigenization, because the negative word sounded very negative. Though it actually meant, it came out from my office when I was district PP&MD and Secretary to the Defense Acquisition Council. What we did, we picked up what all we buy from abroad, interacted with the MSMEs and found out, India mein ban sakta hai ki nahi ban sakta hai? And how much does the forge require and what it is. So that's how the list came out, 101, thereafter became 108 and so on, and I think today we have 400 plus. Direct imports cannot happen unless the RM says yes. And PSUs, DPSUs have been given a list of about 2,500 items that you will not buy this as your ingredients to produce your product. Now I ask a question to what Dinesh has just mentioned. What if tomorrow the government says nothing will be imported? Are we self-reliant? Can we have even a bullet made without the international help? Is that possible anywhere in the world? Anyway, that's been discussed. About the book, The President of Society of Indian Defense Manufacturers, the same book which we are discussing, said a very useful contribution to how India must progressively build a robust and resilient military industrial complex so as to protect its global interest as a nation It offers a precise roadmap for realizing Atmanirbhar Bharat in a vital sector such as aviation. I am quoting. Do we know how to convert military budgets into military capability? I don't know whether anybody is training us to do that. So when we say we've got so much of budget, we just saw slide, so much of budget is coming. Do we know how to convert that into military capability? Okay, today we've got 1,72,000 crores. This is the military capability which can be. Do we know that? How many dollars, overall, how many dollars go out of India to produce a weapon system or a platform in India, and we still proudly call it made in India to produce an item? Has our industrial capability risen through the offset obligation? Does a DPSU today have an edge over the Indian private industry? Still? Do we need to have a systems approach in building aeroplanes in India? We now request Technology Knowledge Chopra to enlighten us with a futuristic aeroplane manufacturing ecosystem for a big system. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, DG USI. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and I have seen the clock. Next. One controls aerospace, controls this flight. And last year, 40% of the defense budgets of the world, so $2.4 trillion, was spent on aerospace. And aircraft remains increasingly relevant, high obsolescence, and therefore highest dividend in Atmanirbharta is aerospace. Next. The recent war in Ukraine has clearly brought out the importance of air power on every facet. The future aircraft of the world, 6th generation fighters, still have the pilot in it, though drones and UAVs have started dominating on the lower end of the war. Space has been a great enabler. AWC and ISTAR have played a great role. Next. Cyber, electronic warfare, airspace management, including electronic fratricide. We had cases where you jam your own systems. PGM stocking, supply chain logistic capabilities, doctrinal changes is what we have learned. Next. Now look at what's across the Himalayas for us. Next. Though purely Indian Army is the largest army in the world, bigger than Chinese, because Chinese are split into, but overall armed forces size for China is bigger. But if you see the slide on the right, the power index, the first three, that is Russia, China, USA, they are all very close in total power index. Whereas we are number 4, but gap between us and China is significant. Next. China aerospace industry. Their equivalent of HAL, 4,20,000 people. We in HAL have got 28,000. They have got 3 companies within the top 10 defense companies of the world. And of course, they are now become the 4th largest defense exporter. They're going up. They did espionage, reverse engineering. So what? But they got it today. And of course, and even the aero engine is coming up next. Aggressive political and military intent on aerospace. Space, last year, 67 launches. Ours, 7. Fly fighters, very soon, maybe 2-3 years, they will have more 5th generation fighter aircraft than all of Indian Air Force's fighters get. That's the way they are going about it. And they have bombers, large number of them, with long-range cruise missiles, and soon they will have a stealth bomber. They have a transport aircraft, 60-ton transport aircraft. Between I-76 and C-17, 50 of them, and they're converting refuelers, airbags, everything all of them. Next. They are working on a 40-ton class of helicopter jointly with the Russians. Big, even the Russians don't have. We know B-26 was the largest. And in UAVs, surface-to-surface missiles, in long-range air-to-air missiles, they are trying to catch up or have caught up with the Americans. So, leaping ahead in cyber electronic warfare. Next. See the numbers. India, China, Pakistan. These are all from a global resource. Military balance, 2024. Look at the ones in red especially. As I said, bombers, fifth generation fighters, electronic warfare, AWCs, FRAs, helicopters, UAVs, they are pushing ahead. That's just 25 years back, we were more or less equals. Next. You know, China's advantage in air, as I said, bombers, air-to-air missiles, long-range, huge infrastructure in Tibet. You know, there's one airfield in Tibet, which is the longest runway in the world, next to Xingxi. No, please go back. Yeah, okay. So, space, global navigation system, covering the whole globe. So, they are big and low exercise exposure and war exposure is an issue, but they're trying to catch up, but still far. Next. And we all have talked enough, and everybody has written in all kinds of journals. We have the advantage of everything. Well, we have it. And that's not going to change. And we'll continue to have, I can tell you that we, Indian Air Force, can launch more missions every day, at least twice the number of missions that China can have from their airfields. If they lose 2 airfields and we lose 6 from attacks, we have that advantage. Next. So this is what we did in the last 25 years. Indian Air Force got transformed. Everything that's listed here happened after that. And that's significant, but not significant enough. I have not been through the slide, but you all broadly can gauge what is there. Next. But IF needs to do much more. There are 3 things which I write more about. One is, of course, getting the fighter squad number. There will be enough amount of debate. Some people say you've got a Rafale, it's replaced the MiG-21, why do you want the same number? My God, look at the other side. What has he got? He's getting 5th generation aircraft. We won't have a 5th generation aircraft in 2038. I'm not saying this. HAL chairman is saying it. He said it yesterday. 2038 is when you will get. Our LCA Mark II will come only 2034. HAL chairman is saying. So we know where we are, and there is a need for us to invest greater number of drones, swarms, hasten indigenization programs, and of course some of the core areas we all know, aero engines, hypersonic, EW, cyber, directed energy, weapons, space. Next. You know, I'm a single man show, so I have made this slide not so good, but this is how, if everything was to work perfectly, in 2038 you can have 40 squad. But nothing is working perfectly. We already have Mark 1A delay by 1 year. Now we are going to get it only on 31st of March next year. Next. So, huge indigenization push has been covered by earlier speakers, and we are okay, we are positive indigenization list, sports, BrahMos, Adani, Elbit is doing a lot of work. IMHF we are making, we are now tied up with, to get the G engine. G engine, what? Is license production, that's all. There is no technology that's coming with us. We have been making license production engines in the past, British engines, Ador. We have done with the Russian engines. We are making license production. So nothing is going to happen. Much more needs to be done. Next. Got to go beyond license production. Need intellectual property rights. Here. Next. Combat aircraft production ecosystem. We all know we've placed orders, 200 plus LCAs, plus LCA Mark II you order, large numbers, already commitments are there. AMCA, we have said 126 of the ministries, more will be ordered. No shortage of commitment. Blind commitment has been given by Indian Air Force. We will buy, please give us something. That's our physical situation. But so much, AWC, SRs, 15 years we have tried to get an FRA. How can you have a continental sized country with 6 FRAs, 4 of which will be serviceable, have 3 large and 3 small AWCs? More needs to be done. And what I will just tell you next. Hasten all this. You have grant plans. Put the money on the table so that we get going. Not happening. Happening very slowly. AMCA money has been given now. CCS approval, 15,000 crores. Private sector coming big way. I think much more hand-holding needs to be done. We are very good. We are making for OEMs from the world. We are making the Tatas, we are to name it. A lot of private companies, they are making LCA front, middle fuselage, tail fins of these 230. But we need to get DRDO and PSUs to hold private sector. Come on, guys, they're pulling of them. And they can get technology and they're paying good money to their CEOs, unlike the HCS chairman who has to get money for the Secretary of the Government of India gets next. Drone ecosystem. I'm mentor to a drone company which has got a good order from the Air Force. Decent order. And I have got to understand what I have met the President of Drone Federation of India. What is it? They have made a list of components which are important. I mean, battery, the rotor, the sensor, everything is ready. We are just putting the things together. So our conjecture is India needs to get into mass production of components, and that means some standardization has to be done, and that will be done by the Drone Federation of India next. Indigenous aeroengine. 8 to 10 billion is what Safran stroke, Rolls Royce are 8 to 10 billion. They will sit with me. Your interview, what will be the arrangement? Or use all the data that we have got from GTR, give it to Reliance, give it to Adani, I don't care who, and say, here it is. You buy it, so the technologies, you pay whoever you want to, we give us it. Next. And I feel that this aero engine should be handled by PMO directly through a task force, like they are handling space and next. This is my last slide. Advanced weapons approach is required. We are doing that. I think the aerial missiles, surface-to-air missiles, we are quite all right. The future is in hypersonic. We are very, very far behind in hypersonic. We in CAPS have recently done a study with the government of India on this, but we have miles to go. Electric energy weapons, China, America, very, very, very. We need to push on that. Supply chain issues, sorry, this is my last. The point I want to highlight is, what are we spending on R&D? 0.6%. What is China spending on GDP? What is China spending? 2.5%. What is America spending? 3.6%. 0.6, maybe 1.2, but that's where we need to go. Huge Russian basket of 60. My strong feeling is that we must, in next 10 years, try to make it 40 Indian, 40 Russian, 30 West. Target for that. Thank you. Last slide.
Thank you, sir. Ashik, I'm sure you were talking about Wapiti, and Master Chopra must have scared you from Wapiti, where we have reached today. That's not even 100 years.
I was just mentioning that I commanded one squadron, which was there only, and for initial 9 years, also during the time of duty, and I was the commandant during the platinum duty. So one squadron, great, I enjoyed it.
And April 33, when the first flight of the one squadron became an Indian squadron with 5 pilots and 1 adjutant, because 6 of them went abroad and only 5 could complete the course. That's a very interesting story, if people don't know. 6 young boys were selected to go and get trained abroad as pilots, and only 5 got trained. Why? Because the 6th one couldn't reach the rudders. His feet were so short, his legs were so short. And those days we didn't have rudder pedal which could be adjusted front and back. So he had to be grounded because he couldn't apply the rudders. So that was the case, and that's all 6 of them commissioned and came back. Well, we'll throw some questions from my side to all of you, sir, and whoever takes it on. The public sector has successfully built a fighter aircraft, and it is taken all over the world. And I say, because Choki sir has been involved with that aircraft is actually good. Why I say this? Because we never make the PM and a president buy a single engine aircraft. And our Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, flew the LCA, which is a single engine aircraft. President flew the Falcon, which is a twin. And Defense Minister's flying a twin. So that means it's a very nice aeroplane which is built by the public sector and it's flying. 3 variants of helicopters are successfully there, ALH, LCUS and LCH. We have couple of light transport aircraft down here. In any case, Avro is now 63rd year. Thank God it's not known to the Delhi government, because after 15 years they don't let a car fly on the road, and an aircraft after 63 years right over the skies. And now private sector has built C295 MW. Sir, is that good enough to say that we want this Atmanirbhar? Yeah, let me give you a few timelines which will help you understand that are we good enough on Atmanirbhar or not. C295, we all know that by the time the last aircraft comes, we'll have 80% Indian fighters on board. 80%. But by the last aircraft. Because we are starting from, long rockets, etc. LCA timelines, 2001 first flight. 2015 first continent 2 aircraft. And today, 25, that's it's going to be 2025. 24 years, number of aircraft, 40 in this continent, 50 total. See JF-17 timeline. See the, J-20 timelines. Much faster. Okay, Chinese have money there, but whatever they might have done. And this is not
my contention is that C2 airlines is a good story, but it was long. But I'm very happy 400 flying, 1,000 orders for ALH variants by different, LCH, LUH, everything, etc. put together. So we are doing in some sectors we are doing good, but as I said, as a nation we have to get our tax right. And C295 coming to a private sector could start, but so much more.
Dinesh, can we build aircraft at the rate at which we are required without the whole of nation approach? Your book is covering everything in it.
Yeah, that's true. Point is, I will say at least we have started. I know this is a very complex scenario what you are actually asking, because basic infrastructure changes we are starting making. So another the way LCA and ANCA and all those projects are being built. Hopefully, after about 5 to 7 years, we may be at a position where we are doing everything at our own resources. But again, only conditions like this that people have to play the ball the way it is.
Let me just add one thing. LCA today has 50% import content, 50%. And the target given by HAL and DRDO will be, we will have 60% by 2030. Because we will not have our own energy. We will not have many avionics. We still have some weapons from outside. We will have electronic warfare which will be outside. So we have to be, if 2030 we're going to have only 60% indigenization in LCA, which is our flagship aircraft, I think we need to do better. And production-wise, third line Nasik will be operational, I believe, next year. So we will be able to make 24. But where? See the numbers we have made this year. Because of one day getting stuck because of engine, not only engine, software. Engine just the front. Actually speaking, there are many issues which HAL has to solve. Even if we had the engine on 31st of March this year, LCA Mark 1 will still be delayed because of software. So there are issues to be solved.
Dr. Ashik, can we know something about the Hyderabad aviation, because I believe that's where the first lady also flew, if I'm not mistaken.
There's some
I just wanted to break the monotony of going ahead. So let's get on to the history of the
I'm learning a whole lot, and it's very interesting to hear about all this. Hyderabad is a very interesting case because Hyderabad is by far, as you know, the wealthiest state in India among the princely states, and they essentially end up setting up their own airline, which is Deccan. And Deccan has it's very much in certain ways a predecessor of the kind of airlines that we now see in the Middle East. It's got it's got white pilots. It's got sort of Anglo-Indian air hostesses. In fact, a number of the pilots in Deccan are Poles who are kind of who fled the Second World War, who can no longer go back to Poland because Poland is now a communist country, and they kind of come to live over here. And in fact, Hyderabad considers setting up its own air force. So Hyderabad Hyderabad sends its representatives to London, and they meet the they meet retired Royal Air Force Air Marshals, and they ask them whether they'd be kind of willing to join Hyderabad Air Force. And those Air Marshals are quite interested in this, but as it turns out, the British are not keen on Hyderabad being an independent state, and neither is India. So what India does is that India essentially sets up an aerial blockade of Hyderabad. So Deccan is no longer allowed to fly into Hyderabad and so on. And then, of course, for those of us who have heard about the whole gun running that then happens, Hyderabad then sort of hires an Australian entrepreneur slash smuggler called Sydney Cotton who flies in a lot of arms, via from Switzerland to Karachi to Hyderabad. So it's quite an interesting story, and the interesting thing to me in certain ways about Hyderabad is that in terms of, if we look at state structure between Hyderabad and East Pakistan doesn't have a functioning government. It doesn't in many places have flags for the new country. Whereas Hyderabad has a fully functioning state, but it is not recognized as a sovereign state by the UN, by the British, by the Americans, and so it doesn't end up sort of becoming a sovereign state. Whereas the parts of India that, especially in the east, that end up becoming sovereign, largely because of the fact that they accorded international recognition. So it's quite interesting in that sense.
Thank you. One last question from me, then we'll open to the house. So we have institutions to train the CAs, doctors, lawyers, and other such professionals. Navy is undergoing courses in US to learn how to design and build ships, despite building their own ships all through. Don't you think we need an aviation training institution to help visualize, design, develop, manufacture, and finally market the aeroplanes in India, sir? And this, to my thinking, cannot happen if we just do it government alone, private alone. Don't you think we should join up and do something like this so that we have a focus institution which is bringing us out, sir?
Many universities, when I was DG CAPS and my predecessors, we all engaged a lot with the universities. Right now in universities, including RRU, we are trying to set up an aerospace faculty there. But most of the university colleges do not have aerospace as a subject or faculty. So there is, and even Air Force is conscious of it. We've been trying to, get this going, but unfortunately, I agree with you. Not only that, drone pilots. Today we require institution to train drone operators. And the way numbers of drones are being acquired at vice chiefs levels and deputy chiefs levels now by the three services, we are delivering drones, but operators are required. So there is an issue, what you are saying, that we need to have more, IIT, Kanpur, Kharagpur, 2-3 of them are doing ISC, IASC. They are doing some work, but much more needs to be done.
So their focus will be more on engineering, not on just the vertical of. Any questions from the audience?
Thank you, Chair. My compliments to all the speakers. Before I ask anything, my basic qualification is graduation arts. I'm not an engineer, although I'm a Bombay sapper. So I won't be able to answer any technical thing. But as a layman, my question is, are we building our own engines? Are we building our own fan belts? Are we building our own bricks for isolation in this time? Where we are? Then one clerk is deciding what a professional should do. Another thing I just forgot. About human attack. I think somebody was mentioning about fighter pilots and all that. Irrespective of all the advancement and all that, you can't replace the human being. You cannot have the thing without a pilot, irrespective of any advancement. I remember, I think 1970, one movie came, 1001 Space Odyssey. In short, computer said, I have been programmed. I'm a computer, I'm doing whatever I have been programmed to do. You are a human being. You can think, I cannot think.
Question.
Is it comment? I I was just asking you where we are.
Yes, yes.
Even LCA you are mentioning and all that. Unless USA gives the engine, we cannot do anything. Eurofighter, we are not this thing because it has got an American engine. And America has all the chips and all that, it can immobilize all the military aircraft. Even during Kargil war, America shifted the Google positions. And our pilots, though they were correctly doing it, it was going on away from the desired targets. And yesterday I mentioned, I am just repeating what the sake of related, what we are doing about the human assets. Are we safeguarding it? There is so much adulteration. Suppose you just see young boys, girls and all this thing, just 5 or 6 years, they are having specs.
Thank you, sir.
They are having specs. Suddenly you just see pilots flying at 2,000, 4,000 miles or kilometer per hour or knots per hour. Suddenly you become blind. Have you thought of those eventualities? Thank you. This is my comment.
Thank you, sir.
Not question this thing.
So your problem statement, everybody knows. The answers all of us know.
I don't have solutions.
No,
I don't have solutions.
answers and solutions all of us know. The implementation will be by themselves. The younger generation which is sitting there.
No.
So that is why we involve them.
No. Somewhere, sorry, I disagree. Somewhere we have to. Wherever we have to require to put our foot down, we are not putting it down. The latest example is DG Coast Guard. He suddenly died. Why died? Because for everything we say yes. We never say no, it cannot be done, or it is the wrong order. Sorry, I'm just
Yes, sir.
making a statement.
We'll have the DG US side. Mike.
I think I speak loudly. So my question is to Air Marshal Chopra, who has been at the helm of affairs in terms of, philosophizing and conceptualizing Air Force issues. When you read any foreign literature today, people are talking about air missile, integrated air missile systems, right? US everywhere. And today, whether it is surface to air missile, air to air missile, or the force multiplier, everything is making an impact in the space, in the air. What is India's evolving air missile defense system? Do we really have a very well crystallized philosophy? And what are we working in the direction of having more missiles and integrating them with the air, including the missiles which are held by ground units?
I must tell you, many years back, as an Air Vice Marshal, I was head of a Tri-Services Committee called Airspace Management, in which how will we integrate the ground systems, even airborne systems of the Army, the airborne systems of Navy, the naval surface forces, naval aircraft, Indian Air Force, all these services, including Coastal and Port. These committees have been sitting every 7-8 years. They come out with a huge document which is approved by the MOD, and all the 3 services have got it. And yesterday I met an Air Vice Marshal who told me that the similar discussion is going on, which is, we have seen as a head of inspection in the Indian Air Force. I know that we did lots of joint exercises where fire control orders, is the gun free or the missile free for the Army, is the coordination of the airstrike passing over the technical battle area. So this kind of an exercise with missiles, guns of the ground forces, their helicopters, their drones, it's there. It's in place and it's being revised every few years. And so the airspace management, and as I talked in my district, electronic first side is the next. Because the Army will jam anybody in their brigade area. And if the aircraft are going to be jammed or there's something which has been fired from the air is jammed, which is happening in Ukraine again and again. So therefore, I agree with you that this is an exercise which is been on for years. I have been part of this, but it has become better and better and better. And currently. Thank you.
So something is called ICCS. You must have heard the concept. This is already looking after the resource management as far as these assets are concerned, and depending on the threat perception, solution we look for. Now, the most important part is all stakeholders are required to update the inventory on the system. If data handshake is not there, the decision making will be impaired. So, policies are there, systems are there. Now we have to see how we can distribute that.
Sir, one quick question from this side and last one from the NCC.
And our time is, we overshot by 2 minutes, so that's why we need to. I think then is it coming from the cadets?
Yes, sir.
One cadet can be
Yeah.
No?
You can ask your question.
You don't require a mic. NCC cadets don't require a mic. Carry on.
Again, sir, I have, sir, speaking for the past for the Air Force, and you spoke about the present. My question is that in the past and the present, scenarios were different. But what was the thing that was stopping the government from spending more money of its GDP on the Air Force? And the second question is, sir, you being that many operations, have you ever felt that is it only the courage that requires to be on the front foot, or what you spoke about the resources and the technologies that we should have? Is it bringing us on a back foot? In the future generations, is the courage and the skill set the only factor that will decide we will win or not? So what's your thought on this?
Firstly, I must tell you that the government has, of course, too many priorities, poor country, large population, we have to look after everybody. So, we are seeing growth of the defense budget. Is it beating the inflation? It is. So our defense budgets, the capital budgets going up in a reasonable rate, they are. But still, considering the threat, we need to have money. But what Marshal Sachdeva said in his opening remarks, bang for the buck. Are we being able to convert the defense budget, whatever it is, into integrated capability between the three services is the question. And it's being talked of in the security establishment, and I presume somebody is looking at.
Sir, we talked about platforms and dehumanization, what is going on that. What about the ammo part of it, the ammunition? That is the bombs, the missiles, what is the status on that front? Engineering, self-reliance, what is the import?
Each service has worked out how much of, depending on what the government directive is, to front war, how long, whether 30 days of winter and 60 days of slow war, whatever government has given. But now we know that 1,000 days over in Ukraine, the war is not finished. So all those calculations are being questioned within the government and with some comments. So there is X amount of stocking. Remember a missile, 10 years life. After that it goes. 10 years in air-conditioned environment. Every time you move it from that air-conditioned environment to take it to a truck and move it, life is going down. So there's X amount of region, millions is what a missile costs. Very, very expensive. So therefore, supply chain, make more and more in India, reduce the import dependent is being spoken of, is being looked at. Much more needs to be done. Yes. Thank you, panel. India is soon going to be the third largest economy in the world. The first largest economy in the world has got, if I'm correct, 5,000 airfields and over 1 lakh aeroplanes. And the second largest economy, Marshal Chopra just told us how they are growing. Known civil airfields are about 500, unknown we don't know, military we don't know, so they are also running into 4 figures. And aeroplanes, the way they are manufacturing, they don't. If we are going to be the third largest country, we need to grow. We already have 2,000 aeroplanes in the air and another 2,000 are in the pipeline for the next 10 years. The orders have been placed, whether they be manufactured or wherever. Just remember, your question, just remember, our money gets divided by 1.4 billion population. That's the problem. The others don't have that problem and we have that problem. China also has that, but their economy is well ahead of us. So even if you're going to be number 3, we are at least 4-5 times slower than China, and we get divided by 1.4. So the money requires to be given to this, to that, to this, to this. Even your uniform. When I was an NCC cadet, I used to be in a RDC in a tent, and I used to do a lipa poti for my. You are staying in a fixed structure there. The economy is changing. Money is required for you also. Money is required for everybody. So with that, sir, we'll come to an end of session 1. We overshot by 7 minutes because the questions had to be thrown from both sides. The choreographer was controlling the panel. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being patient listener to us. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. We'll now begin with the session 2. In an era where cyber threats are increasingly sophisticated and pervasive, defending critical military infrastructure from digital attacks has become crucial. The upcoming session will explore the essential role of skilling, reskilling and upskilling in cybersecurity for military personnel, ensuring the defense sector is prepared to confront the challenges of the modern digital battlefield. Before I invite all the panelists, I would like to invite one of the panelists, Mr. Vivek Srivastava, Country Sales Manager, 14th. Vivek is a technology and cybersecurity business leader with 24 years of experience in sales and business management, strategy and planning, building growth ecosystem, portfolio management, and building nurturing and inspiring high-performing teams. Vivek has led startups and minuscule cybersecurity business growth to high multi-million dollars. He possesses the experience of managing above $50 million business. Over the last 23 years, he has led many path-breaking, transformational and multi-million dollar cybersecurity projects with enterprises, service providers and government entities in India and SAARC region. Vivek is going to give a presentation before we start the panel discussion. He will be showcasing his presentation on fast evolving world of cybersecurity, a field that is not only protecting but transforming the way we interact, operate and innovate. As cyber threats grow in complexity, so do the technologies and strategies designed to counter them. From AI-driven threat detection to robust data encryption and cloud security solutions, advancement in cybersecurity services are redefining our digital landscape. These innovations are helping businesses to not just defend, but to build trust and resilience in a world where digital interactions are increasingly at the core of everything we do. Let's explore how these shifts are shaping the future and paving the way for safer and smarter solutions. Mr. Vivek Srivastava.
If I could Good morning, everyone. I hope I'm audible.
Mic.
Is it better now?
Better.
Okay, good. Okay, can I get a click on it? You'll be doing it for me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Means you move to the next. Okay, thank you so much. I think the stage has been set up to primarily explore some of the areas from cybersecurity standpoint. We work some deliveries here as well, working on cybersecurity projects. I thought in next 12-13 minutes I'll talk about some of the trends, pieces that we are observing. See, Fortinet as an organization is a cybersecurity solution provider. We build products, we work on cybersecurity research, we work with multiple governments worldwide, we work with multiple businesses worldwide. So we also do a good amount of research and development in terms of figuring out what's happening in cybersecurity space and then build solutions. So I'm going to share some of the findings that we have, some of the observations that we have. and how the cybersecurity world is evolving, how is it impacting all of us per se. Before I get there, I'm going to probably quickly talk about why we are seeing the cybersecurity piece is becoming so crucial. We were just listening to how we are looking at India as a economy. We are probably all set to become the third largest economy. Currently, we are the fifth largest economy, growing pretty fast. And many of the areas where we are seeing growth are also kind of credited to the digital acceleration that we have seen in the last 6 to 7 years. And when you leverage digital acceleration, digital transformation in your day-to-day life, whether the way we do business, the way we educate our kids, the way we learn, the way we play, the way we build newer businesses, it's all based on digital initiatives that we are seeing. Many of the citizen services, the work the government is doing is also based on the digital acceleration or transformation that we are seeing. When that happens, while it becomes much easier for us to leverage those services, leverage those businesses, at the same very time we make it easier for our adversaries also to come and attack us. We give them a larger attack surface per se. The way I look at digital acceleration, which is immensely important for our growth, I also parallelly see cybersecurity playing a very, very crucial role now. The reason being is, look at a business, let's say tomorrow, today you all use those UPI apps. If I tell you that one of those UPI apps has, no cybersecurity principle involved or currently calculated into it, and it's all risky, probably you'll stop using it more. Similarly, if I tell you a bank is offering very secure services, but every time you want to do a transaction, you have to go sit in the branch and work with a person there, that business will also go down. So that means there have to be an equal balance which has to be between digital and cybersecurity piece. And that's where we be very particular about how we look at the cybersecurity piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about the threats that we are seeing from cybersecurity standpoint. What is that India is dealing with right now. The technology evolution, the trends that we are seeing which are coming up and shaping the way we should look at cybersecurity per se, and then I'll also probably spend a couple of minutes talking about what as an organization, as a responsible cybersecurity solution provider, what Fortinet is doing with governments and the other agencies worldwide, how we are building solutions here to address that problem and still continue to accelerate on digital adoption for many organizations. So let me quickly start with the threat landscape that we are seeing. Primarily the data that you see on this screen is built on our own research. We serve close to about 14,000 organizations in India, many of them being the government organizations and many citizen services project solutions being used to secure those environments. And there's a 500-member team called FortiGuard Labs which does the R&D and monitors which are the adversaries, monitors which are the attackers, monitors what they are targeting. So the first set of actors that I'm going to talk about is called APT actors. Can I go back to the chart? I think we came onto the other chart. The APT actors, primarily APT when we're talking about the advanced persistent threat actors. Why we are kind of categorizing them as advanced persistent threat? Because they're very persistent. They pick up very few targets and they are very, very persistent in their efforts till the time they break it. Their idea is not to gain something financially. Their idea is to break into the system, stay there, surveil, look at the information available, try and gain more information for their own benefit as well. So the APT actors that you see, which are the organizations that they're targeting, 20% of them are focused on all government entities. The second piece that they look at is the aerospace and defense space. 11% of them, from Indian subcontinent perspective, they're focused on the defense and aerospace, because I think the idea is to surveil the government organization of what's happening from Indian economy perspective. Idea is to look at what's happening from the defense and aerospace perspective. The second two segments that you see, the third and fourth, manufacturing and mining, because that's where you see a lot of trade secrets per se. And in telecom and technology sector, primarily because that provides the backbone of our digital economy. That runs. So if you gain access to those infrastructures, you of course you get a lot of information to play with. The kind of actors who are targeting these Indian entities, the number one is a group called APT28. This APT28 group primarily is came to a lot of limelight when they were actually credited, or I would say discredited, primarily for the election between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. So they were the ones who actually influenced that one. They are targeting a lot of Indian government as well. The second set of groups that we normally track are the activist group. The activist groups are primarily, the ones which are motivated by some social or political agenda. They have their own agenda, they want to prove a point. They normally again do not try and gain something monetarily. They work to prove their point. They want to prove, primarily provide their messages. So they normally do the website defacement. They will disrupt services, and these groups, primarily try and pass on the message that they have. So if you look at from India perspective, the group called Lamar to Nasa, that's a pro-Palestinian group which is very focused on India. And there are many activities where they have been successful in defacing and disrupting services from Indian organizations perspective. The next four that you see, Anon Black Flag, that's an Indonesian group. Then you see the group, can you go back please? The group, the Garnisha, that's again an Indonesian group which is targeting Indian entities and defacements and other disruption activities that you see. You'll also see a small name called, there is an entity from Pakistan as well called Team Insane. They're also have been putting in large amount of attacks on the Indian entities from the defacement perspective. If I go to the next chart, you will see the third group, which is the darknet actors. The darknet is primarily the area where which is non-monitored internet, which is uncontrolled internet, and that's where all the I would say the criminal activities take place. Not only the cyber criminal activities from all sorts of all illegal trades will happen there, whether it's drugs, whether it's weapons, all of those activities happen there. These actors primarily also coordinate to make sure that the larger cyber attacks take place and they work together with each other per se. So they target onto the entities primarily where they can make money. So BFSI and software and IT services are the top targets because here the idea is to make money out of their successful campaigns per se. So you'll see the group like Skotiki, Boxbait. You will see one group called Ratnik. The Ratnik group is a group that focuses primarily on military and government operations. And that's a group which is primarily based out of Russia. So that's a group which targets Indian peace as well. If I can go to the next chart. What we did was we looked at the top 100, top 150 attacks, and we got deeper into breaches which were successful. Trying to understand what is the modus operandi, what is it that they are trying to do, how are they successful, and when we evaluated those attacks and researched on those attacks and successful breaches, what we figured out certain findings that we had. I'll talk about the 25 of the top 100 attacks had absolutely no reason that could be kind of developed out of it, of the research, saying that okay, this was the reason why the issue happened. Unknown issues. Why? Primarily when the attack from where it originated, where it actually happened, or where the first infection happened in the environment, they had no visibility. There were no tools, there were no solutions available to capture what was happening there. Ransomware continues to be the top three threats. Primarily money comes out. They fund themselves with the ransomware campaigns. But I'll tell you something very interesting on ransomware. Every year we were seeing till last year the ransomware volume was going up. Now the volume is going down. It has gone down by 70%, but the ransom value has still gone up. That means these guys are very, very focused. They pick up only one or two targets and they will continue going after. They call it big game hunting. That means you get one, and instead of asking for $100 or $200 ransom, which was the case about 4 or 5 years back, now they ask for ransom of $3 million or $5 million or $10 million. That's the change that we are seeing. Public sector industries, or the organizations are most targeted. 43% of them continue to focus on the government entities because they believe the crown jewels are actually there in that segment. We've also seen the use of AI for generating attacks, or spraying those attacks on the larger attack surface, is being attacked with leveraging AI there. We are seeing, the stolen and weak credentials being one of the very, very common reasons for the attackers to be successful. Insider threat is becoming very, very common. That means we are seeing the insiders either malintention or compromised insider are becoming a catalyst to these cyber attacks, being successful. If I can go to the next, I will talk about some of the learnings that we see that which we clearly need to probably work upon. One being the visibility of the entire marketplace. You can't protect against something that you're not seeing. So the tools and cybersecurity infrastructure has to give that visibility of the environment. The risk assessment becomes a very, very important. Many a times the organizations are not even aware what are the risks that they are living. If the understanding of the risk and the assessment of the risks are properly done, then steps can be taken to oppose either add a solution or make some changes in the policies to mitigate that risk. The security controls, there are now enough tools, enough models, or I would say frameworks available that can be adopted to build or strengthen the cybersecurity controls per se. The incident response plan. See, gone are the days that we could say that okay, we will be able to prevent all the cyber attacks. It's not going to happen. There will be cyber attacks, it will be successful. So we need a better incident response plan. We need a better continuity in terms of how do you come back into the business quickly. So if there is an attack, how do you quickly respond to it and take action is going to be very, very crucial per se. And the newer technologies can be embraced. Things like AI can be leveraged to be faster in terms of generating response, and during the attack phase you can do better detection per se. Last but not the least, I think one very important piece that we learn is building human firewalls. The concept of human firewalls primarily is that the entire organization is aware of cybersecurity. They understand how they need to behave when it comes to digital ecosystems or IT infrastructures per se. And that's where the scaling becomes very, very crucial. One scaling is that you are the custodian of the organization and you're working on cybersecurity. Second scaling is that you understand in the environment that you operate. You are able to identify what is a good mail or what is a bad email per se. So that's the piece that we believe are very, very important from learning's perspective. Let me quickly talk about how the technology piece is, driving the cybersecurity as well. The way we work, I said, of course, COVID changed a lot of it. We now work in a hybrid environment where people are working from multiple places, applications are reaching out to them. So there are primarily three, normally we track about 6 things, but primarily 3 that I've probably spent a minute about and talking about what we're seeing from the cybersecurity standpoint. One is a concept called platformization from cybersecurity standpoint. Second is the convergence of IT and OT technology. Third, I would talk about the AI. If I can go to the next shot, the first one, let me quickly spend 1 minute on the platform. See, over a period of last 15-20 years, a lot of technologies and tools have been developed from cybersecurity. An organization typically uses about 50 different technologies to protect their cybersecurity infrastructure. But at the end of the day, when the attack takes place, you are actually going to multiple sources and not able to put all everything together. So now the concept is how do we build the capabilities of saying that okay, I have the capability of responding to threats in, let's say, this particular time frame. I have the capability of coming out of the attack in this particular time frame. And that's where the transformation comes in, where technologies come together and work together, leverage the context, leverage the intelligence with each other, and take action. And many times this can be automated. So you say that okay, I have a capability of detecting a threat in less than 1 minute. I have a capability of responding to the threat less than 30 seconds. That's the capability that we're talking about, the platform first. The second piece, as I said, if we can go to the next chart, is the AI piece. I think AI, while it is working for our adversaries, it also can be a great tool for ourselves. Many of the organizations are leveraging it, and I'll tell you how. Looking at from the proactive defense, mechanism or the capabilities that you can build leveraging AI, to the reactive response mechanism. You can all probably map it to the typical warfare that you see in a general scenario than to a cyber warfare. What do you want to do proactively? If you want to see some malicious activity, some anomalies in the behavior, you want someone to quickly take action and block the access, right? Like should not be able to do further. AI can do this and is actually doing, in many cases, automating it as well. Similarly, for reactive, when you are working on a response plan, how do you gather more and more information about the entire attack? This AI can quickly bring it all together, for you. Similarly, the typical mundane activities can be handed over to AI. It can also help you address the skill gap. You don't need to now hire 100 professionals which are all trained on cybersecurity deeply, but AI can actually bring all that capability to you because it can generate those automated playbooks and run those and response plan. All of those things can be done, leveraging AI. If we can go to the next one, the third piece from cybersecurity piece is the IT and OT convergence. No longer we are seeing that OT can still be a air gap system. The benefits of digitization will come only when they work together. And that's where we are seeing the convergence of it. So that means the cybersecurity controls that you had for IT has to extend to OT environment. And this is where a new concept of cyber physical systems is coming up, CPS. And so now cybersecurity strategies are being built for overall environment where you cover not only IT, you cover OT as well, and the controls are extended to entire environment. So you secure that environment as well. Quickly, I'll probably spend 2 more minutes and we'll talk about what we are doing as Colgate as an organization as a responsible cybersecurity solution provider. In the piece, the first piece is building a kind of a platform where these smaller gaps that we see from IT environment perspective can be addressed. So we are working and we are very focused on something called as convergence of networking environment and a security environment, so that you have a common capability of secure network. That means you're not worried about where your user is, you're not worried about where your device is, you're able to extend the cybersecurity control. Similarly, there's a concept called secure access services. That's where we say that the concept of hosting an application at one place or in a specific cloud and user being able to access the application only from a specific device, that all those borders get diminished. Leveraging SASE. That means user can be anywhere, application can be anywhere, he can use any kind of machine, but you are still able to control all the behavior, still able to control all the activities, you are still able to see the, have the visibility of what he's doing. And last piece is the day-to-day operations. The security operations are very crucial. That's where we are bringing AI to ensure that you don't have to hire hundreds of people for day-to-day operations. You are monitoring everything, you have the visibility, and you are able to take action quickly, leveraging AI, per se, as well. We very strongly believe that there is no one single organization or one single vendor which can solve the cybersecurity. So what we also do, we work with the larger ecosystem, we work with the larger agencies and the organizations worldwide to ensure that we come together, so that we all fight the adversaries together. So that's where we have our collaboration with organizations like Interpol, World Economic Forum, NATO, then MITRE, and then multiple different sources worldwide. We gather intelligence, we share intelligence, we talk to each other, we work together to ensure we together are able to address cybersecurity challenges. We are also very focused on building cybersecurity skills. We have a very strong education program called Fortinet Training Institute, an NSC program. So we pledged to train 1 million cybersecurity professionals by 2026, and that program has been extended to India as well. In India, we actually signed on the Atal program with AICTE, where we offered 100,000 internships, cybersecurity internships. This last year we signed off on this program, which is continuing. These are internships which are offered through AICTE. We've also signed up a program with CERT India very recently, where we said that we will bring in the advanced training programs through CERT to the larger Indian organizations. And that's where the K-12 cybersecurity awareness program is also being programmed. It's a very new one that we announced about a month back, and we're going to focus more on this piece. So that's all that I had primarily, to quickly, talk about. My belief is very simple. If the digitalization has worked on our advantage, and we can leverage this digital acceleration more and more, and build India a much stronger and much bigger economy. Thanks so much.
I request our panelist, Lieutenant General M.U. Nair, to please join us on the stage. Lieutenant General M.U. Nair, Param Vishesh Seva Medal, Ati Vishesh Seva Medal, Sena Medal, is an experienced cybersecurity mentor who has tenanted the appointment of National Cybersecurity Coordinator in the National Security Council Secretary, Government of India, with effect from 1st July 2023. In this capacity, he is responsible for coordinating all activities across multiple sectors to ensure a secure and resilient cyberspace in the country. General Nair was commissioned into the Corps of Signals of the Indian Army in 1984. He has held several key appointments at all levels of military hierarchy. He was also instrumental in steering several key projects on AI, quantum, cryptology, and cyber operations while serving with the armed forces. He was the Signal Officer-in-Chief of the Indian Army when he took up the assignment of the National Cyber Security Coordinator with effect from 1st July 2023. He retired from the active service on 31st May 2024. I now request Lieutenant General Vinod Kandari to please join us on the stage. Lieutenant General Vinod Kandari, Param Vishish Seva Medal, Ati Vishish Seva Medal, Sena Medal, was military advisor to the National Security Council Secretary under the Prime Minister's office. He was Director General Defence Intelligence Agency and Deputy Chief Integrated Defence Staff for Intelligence. Lieutenant General Kandari served in the Indian Army for nearly 4 decades. Serving in infantry, he excelled in challenging terrain, sectors, operational roles in Siachen, Jammu and Kashmir, Sikkim and Northeast region. He is an expert on conventional operations, sub-conventional counter-terrorism operations, information warfare, conflict prevention and peacekeeping operations. Presently, he is serving as a principal advisor to the Ministry of Defence since 2022. Please join me in welcoming Commodore Manish Anand. Commodore Manish Anand is a second generation serving defence officer and alumni of National Defence Academy and Defence DSSC Wellington. An electrical officer, he was commissioned on 1st January 1992. Academically, he holds two postgraduate degrees including ME in Electronics and Telecommunications and MSc in Defence and Strategic Studies. The officer has held varied responsibilities in his career span over 30 decades, including 3 tenures in VESI, the premier technological establishment of the Indian Navy, and has been instrumental in steering several cybersecurity initiatives of the Navy, as well as pioneered the CMMI implementation at VESI. I request Air Vice Marshal Dr. Devesh Vats, VSM, to please join us on the stage. Air Marshal Dr. Devesh Vats is a former Commandant of Aviation Software Development Institute of the Indian Air Force and Assistant Chief of Staff, Communication. Presently, he is working at DSCI NASCOM as advisor, cybersecurity and critical technologies. To moderate this panel discussion, I welcome Ms. Manmeet Randhawa and request her to please join us on stage. Manmeet Randhawa is an experienced marketing and communication leader with over 15 years of expertise, specializing in strategic alliances, corporate social responsibility, and stakeholder management. She has successfully managed key projects for clients such as Meta, Microsoft, AWS, and many more, driving collaborations between corporations, law enforcement agencies, and government ministries. Her strategic leadership has been instrumental in launching and executing impactful campaigns, including the Cyber Raksha Kavach initiative, which provided cybersecurity training to over 1,500 MSMEs, helping enhance digital security and resilience among small businesses. In her last role as Head of Corporate Communications at India Future Foundation, Manmeet played a key role in managing high-profile CSR initiatives, building effective partnerships, and steering project communication to achieve lasting impact. In addition to her corporate role, she is currently freelancing for various organizations in the areas of strategic alliances, partnerships, marketing, and communications. She was featured in Women Entrepreneur magazine for her leadership and contribution to the industry. May I request for a group photograph before we start the panel, please? A warm welcome to everyone. Thank thank you so much for coming over and being a part of this cybersecurity panel discussion that we have today as a part of Indian Military Heritage Festival. We have already heard from Vivek as to what are the threat vectors and why we need to be upbeat. So I'll straight away land my question to General Bhandari. That given the focus on cybersecurity at this military festival, how does India's defense sector view cyber warfare within the broader context of national security?
Thank you, Manjeet, and it's always nice to see a full house, maybe because it's a small room. But anyway, coming to cyber, firstly, who's our adversary in cyber? That is the first question we've got to ask. It's not like there is a boundary on a map and there are people on the other side and they seem to be our adversaries. In cyber, who otherwise in diplomatic terms may be a friend, maybe an enemy or an adversary in cyber. So that is the first thing that we have to remember. Secondly, are you looking at cyber warriors from your adversary side to be only degree holders or PhD holders? You'll be surprised. There are people from madrasas who are extremely good at getting past all your firewalls which have been made by IITians. I have no disrespect for IITians, but I'm just telling you that I have seen how madrasa operators also get past. So how do we look at it in the government? We have to be all-encompassing. You look at USA, CIA, FBI thought they were impenetrable. A young kid from UK was able to get into the CIA network and get the phone number which was otherwise unlisted. And then with the help of UK government, that boy was imprisoned, and there was another one from USA. And today, after serving a sentence of 1 year and 5 years, they are into cyber security. So obviously you look at it, those who can steal should protect. So that is the viewpoint where we have to make a departure from a formal kind of an education to looking at whole of society, whole of nation to spot talent. Is talent spotting correct today? I have a big question mark on that. You look at how we are going ahead with our growth in defense production, research and development. Private sector, public sector, if they are going to spend less attention or money on cyber defense, then you have a case as we had in one of the private sector where for 7 days there was ransomware and that private sector firm could not move an inch. And then within a month or so, that same industry, I don't know how much money they would have paid, but within a month there were 3 blasts in that particular industry. So what could be a non-kinetic thing can get converted into kinetic if you do not pay adequate attention to cyber. So overall, I think even the policy makers and the practitioners have to look at all these things. And again, in cyber or in any other field, people only look at gladiators, that is attackers. So in a soccer match, only the center forward who goes and scores a goal. What about the others who have to protect the goal? So in a society like 1.4 billion, Marshal Sadeva was mentioning, each and everyone has to do defense. Each and everyone has to be that much more educated, literate and accountable. If you are not going to protect your own surface, you don't expect others to come and give you a solution. And last point before I hand over, because I know time is short, the last point I want to make is, we have various mechanisms from the security side engaging with human capital, the NCC cadets who are on the other side. What is our mechanism for talent spotting when they are young? If they are young, spotted, they have a longer reach, they will be able to tell us of our vulnerabilities. But if you are going to segregate and make it that only qualified people are going to bring it, no, we will be going wrong. So that these are the few points I thought I want to make.
Thank you, Colonel Kandari. Very valid points. My next question is to you, General Nayak, that how well you think we have transitioned from traditional military and we are prepared for cyber warfare? Because now, if you see the Russian-Ukraine conflict, or you see how North Korea is trying to penetrate, or how other countries, even the Israel, Israel is supposed to be one of the best in cybersecurity and cyber warfare. Even they are getting dragged down with it. So how well do you think we have transitioned from the traditional military operations to cyber warfare, and whether we have the skilled personnel for carrying on this for the Indian military?
Thank you, Nandini. First, I would like to thank the USA for giving me an opportunity to come and speak here. I wanted to just draw your attention to the previous speaker, Vivek, when he showed you the slides. He showed you that 20% of government sector, 11% of defense sector, 8% of dark web is actually being monitored or is attracting malicious threat actors. Why should malicious threat actors be looking at these domains, government sector, defense sector? This is something which all of us need to understand, that are they going to get money from this particular endeavor, or is it just simply they're looking at snooping? Many of these threat actors or state actors or non-state actors who have the backing actually looking at these sectors with the intention to get information, and this is the way the nature of warfare is actually evolving, about which General Khandare just mentioned. So you will realize, I also wanted to draw your attention to one of the facts. If you look at the NPCI's transaction, the UPI transactions which have taken place, on 5th of November, about 520 million rupees of transactions, 520 million transactions have been carried out in a single day, and it's worth about 85,200 crores. Now this is the quantum of money which actually gets transacted on a single day. You can actually go into the NPCIC and see the statistics. So each of us are actually part of this particular endeavor, including the 1.2 million armed forces personnel, as also all our dependents who are there. So all this, including the children who are there, all of them are carrying smart devices today. So you're all part of an ecosystem where the government's focus is on using this large infrastructure for our welfare, growth of our population at large in terms of their progress, development. So if we are focusing on development through digital outreach like this, any impact on this particular infrastructure through malicious threat actors will have great impact on our security itself, national security. That's why our Honorable Prime Minister did mention multiple times that cyber security today is a national security challenge. And so with that in background, I'm sure the armed forces are very much aware of this. They have actually, in fact, the USA themselves have, I think, a group, a wing, which is primarily looking at cyber today, cyber domain. It's a wonderful initiative. We have the Defense Cyber Agency, which has been raised in 2018-19. We have the services cyber organizations which have been raised. So the armed forces are very much aware of the threats which emanate from the cyberspace. But it's for all of us, the citizens, who are also part of the defense community, who need to understand that there are vulnerabilities in the cyberspace, which each one of us can be impacted. An inadvertent or an advertent mistake or small little vulnerability can actually create a national security challenge. Like General Khandare mentioned about the CIA website being hacked into by a child. Now, all this is possible in an ecosystem like ours today. And there's nothing called a perfect cybersecurity, because our technology landscape is changing so fast that vulnerabilities are being detected, new vulnerabilities emerge, and there is an ecosystem which looks at challenges and looking at how to create havoc in this ecosystem. There are criminals at large. Look at the number of cyber crimes which are they're so rampant, digital arrest. So it's our job to protect it, and I'm sure as armed forces we are very much aware, and Mandeep, I think the armed forces are doing a lot in this endeavor. Very much equipped today to handle the challenges which occur in the cyberspace.
Thank you, General Nayak. So basically, what I wanted, even for the younger kids here, I wanted them to know that how they can get skilled, how they can be a part of this entire movement and how they can support. So if there is any government initiative or if there is any initiative from the armed forces, wherein they could also benefit.
There are a lot of initiatives which have been taken by the armed forces. First, the National Defence Academy today picks up young children at the age of 16 to 19. So that's an opportunity, it's an UPSC exam and an SSB. Actually, I'm talent which goes into the armed forces through the National Defence Academy, the Indian Military Academy, and it doesn't segregate you from technical, non-technical. It also gives you, access into the armed forces. Even for many, including the Navies, there are specific training capsules we have for technology. We identify the skilled personnel from the ITIs, get them into the armed forces, so that even at that level we have the requisite skill sets. How do you join the armed forces as a civilian towards the protection of this? I'm sure you're all aware of the initiatives through the TA Directorate, the Territorial Army, where the Territorial Army, you can actually get into the armed forces and support it through that embodiment, which is again an activity which I think has been started by the armed forces very recently. So there are multiple avenues, and if you can't get into the armed forces, you can always support as a private industry, as a part of private industry, because there are a lot of public support, private industrial support to the armed forces, like 14net supports quite a bit of our endeavors. So similarly, there are multiple organizations, there are PSUs, DPSUs, which are actually supporting us in our endeavors. So we can actually contribute towards the effort of the armed forces of the nation into nation building in this particular domain.
Thank you. My next question is to Air Vice Marshal Vatse. Emerging technologies such as AI and machine learning are reshaping cybersecurity. So what potential do you see for these technologies to enhance cyber military operations, particularly from the Air Force perspective?
Many, not one. The point is, are we geared up in adopting these technologies? A question. Question is not how this AI and ML, or for that matter, any emerging technologies will deliver the results. As Sir has spoken about, and I think, sir, sorry, I got a call from Air Marshal Sachdeva, I'm a 12th man. I'm writing a book, 12th man, because in last 15 days, I'm replacing somebody or the other on a national forum. I don't know how it is happening. But then I realized, way back, I'm a cricket player, so there was a guy called Ravi Shastri. He was not even a 12th man, he was 16th man. And 4 people got injured in Australia, and rest of history he was called. So I think I will make a difference, and I'm here right now because of him. The point is, as he has mentioned, the things are happening and happening for good or bad, both. I look cyber security as an opportunity for India, because we are behind. हमेशा जब क्लास में आप चौथे आते हो, टीचर बोलता था तुम्हें चांस है 30 नंबर और लाके आगे जाने का, जिसके 100 आए उसे कुछ नहीं मिलेगा. तो my point is this, कि AI has got a fantastic opportunity to be adopted by the Indian Air Force, for that matter any armed forces. Reason is this, it can help you in defensive as well as offensive operations. Why we need technologies? Why we need technologies? We need technologies because we are already reached at a level. We want to enhance that. There is a cyber security posture of service speaking about. How do I enhance that? How do I protect my critical infrastructure? I have to get the technology in place. How do I increase my incident response? How do I make my system, resilient from these kind of cyber attacks? So all this AI, when we talk about, AI is a model which needs to be adopted. Why? It can help you in predicting the attacks. It can help you in designing your kind of system so that you can defend those attacks. Like people talk about cyber security, I always say, he will agree with me, cyber security is a past tense. For me, cyber resilience is current tense. What is happening today? And this is also going very fast. We have to think about cyber immune system. And why I'm saying so, AI will help you to become a pundit. You will be having a digital intuition in place. So much of data crunching. You will come to know what is happening, what attack will come from where. This is what is called digital intuition, and we have to build our system into a digital immune system. Why I say so? You all remember Ramayana. There was a demon called Rakt Beej. उसे काटो, खून गिरता है और एक नया राक्षस खड़ा हो जाता है. तो साइबर सिक्योरिटी ऐसी होनी चाहिए, अटैक करते रहो, लेकिन मेरा सिस्टम डाउन नहीं होगा. My business continuity will remain there, and I will never go to disaster recovery. Where if I go to disaster recovery, the money spent is huge and impact is huge. Am I right, sir?
So we all need to understand these technologies are there to help us. And somebody asked a question to sir about training about the NCC cadets. I'll say, Indian Air Force has started this training of IW professional we don't say cyber professional. Way back in 2016 we had a school which I hope that will become a college or university in Bangalore called IW School, where we train all air warriors for basic information warfare, for advanced warfare, and specifically we plan courses for senior officers so they understand and appreciate, because generally the problem in the corporate is this: the chief information security officer doesn't go to the board meetings and nobody understands him and the money is all awarded to them. So we call them, the CISO's objectives should align with the business objectives, then only they will get some certain funding. Right? So the same thing is happening in Indian Air Force, and I'm sure Army in MCT does the same, Navy does the same. We are training people, but you have given me a very good input. Now the NCC, because I'm training from Data Security Council of India, I will look at how I train these guys, because I am training school children. We are catching on 6th and 7th standard boys and girls who go all over the countryside, and generally the schools which are government school not aided by the government or they have got good money. So we generally target those girls and boys. And one more thing I will, in this forum I will tell you, all the girls, I'm talking about the girls, who does BTech in IT, we pick them and we train them 6 months on cyber security from the DSCI side, and these girls are doing wonderful because IT में jobs नहीं है, but cyber security में people are needed and they are wonderfully well. You can read the story on the LinkedIn about these girls. Now the point which about the cadets, as sir has mentioned, how you can join forces, but I'm not sure that any cyber security program is being done for these people especially. So we need to think on that line, that we open a school, or maybe the Air Force can take on this in the IW school with the capacity. You require instructors also. It cannot just you pump and the people can train. You require people who can train them. So I think this is a point which can be taken up with the Air Force as well as the MCT, where the NCC cadets can be given a chance to create those kind of cyber warriors which are needed in plenty. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. So adding on to that, what you asked, right? So last year we were working closely with the NSCS when General Pant was there, and there was this discussion we were having wherein General Manjeet said, yeah, there's a requirement of 50 lakh cyber professionals in India.
True.
Considering we were at 1.4 that time.
Yeah.
Now a year later, I'm sure the number would have increased as well.
Yes.
So definitely there's a dire need of cybersecurity professionals in the country, considering the landscape and the population we have and the kind of critical infrastructure we have. So definitely, I'm sure NSCS is doing something to bridge the gap. And that's why my next question was coming to you, sir. That you think that there's enough encouragement happening for cross-functional upscaling within the military, especially in the Navy?
Okay, I will not speak only for the Navy because I come from the Defense Cyber Agency. So I will talk about the entire cyber ecosystem of the Defense Forces. I think we have started taking multiple steps towards, a multifaceted but a joint approach to our to cyber. In this respect, we have come out with a joint cybersecurity policy. That's a maiden joint cybersecurity policy that applies to all the 3 services and IDS. Training is an important part, which is part of this policy. I think a lot more needs to be done to attract good talent, especially as far as cyber is concerned. And possibly the way we have our present intake, I mean through our normal course, normal academies, etc., may not work out, because as some of the other panelists said, we need mavericks to be doing this kind of a job. And someone who goes through the academy, drill and PT, probably forgets all the cyber if he's done something in school. So we need to pick out this talent and hire them, get them directly to work with us. So a lot of public-private partnership, and as well as direct powers to directly utilize this kind of manpower, HR that is available in the country. This is something that is the need of the hour. and we're working on ways that we can do this.
Thank you, sir. So talking about public and private partnership and collaboration, how well the industry is equipped to actually support, and what kind of advancements and technologies are coming in where you feel from the industry perspective defense sector could be supported?
I think over last 7-8 years, a lot of progress has been made on the public-private part of it when it comes to skilling piece of it. A lot of benefit of it is going to academia right now. If you see, even in India, the education programs have evolved now to run a full-fledged B.Tech degree in cybersecurity, which was not there probably 4 or 5 years back, but now that's there. What we are also seeing is that most of the technical institutes, as of now, are also establishing, with the help of the private institutions or organizations like Fortinet, establishing a separate cybersecurity labs in their environments, so that the students can leverage those pieces available to them and then probably use their hands-on activities to train themselves, skill themselves. Another piece that we are seeing from public and private partnership perspective is probably equipping the organizations to fight the cybersecurity better by giving them advanced information, and that's where the exchange of intelligence piece. So in these areas, we are of course making have made a lot of progress when it comes to public-private partnerships. There is another area where we are seeing the public-private partnership, which is primarily in the responding to attacks. See, when you are under attack, you would want all hands on deck at that point in time. You would want everyone to be getting in as much information as possible which can be useful at that point in time. And that's where the public-private partnership is also coming into place. I've seen cases where we work with the organizations, our incident response teams are also involved to work with them and basically mitigate the attacks per se. Coming back to the defense forces per se, I think from defense perspective, I remember close to about 20 years back when was the first establishment, which was ACSC, Army Cyber Security Establishment, which was set up. I remember one of such events that happened at USI Auditorium, and I was also one of the speakers at that point in time. They used to conduct regular sessions inviting the public-private organizations like Fortinet. I was working with a different organization at that point in time, but still cyber security. And they used to invite those early career officers and run those 2 days, 3 days workshop primarily to skill them further. It was not a detailed training, but that has now come to a situation where there are detailed courses and trainings are available. So much so that you can also get into the exercises of red teaming and blue teaming, where you can get the teams to work as attackers and one team to work as a defender. And that's all happening with the public-private partnerships that we are seeing. I think we've come a long way. There's still a lot of work to be done, primarily to bring in education at below K-12 level, where the private institutions, private organizations can actually contribute as well. So still, I believe it's a lot of work to be done from our side as well as from the organizations on the other side.
Thank
you.
you.
I can add a little bit what he has said. DSCI runs a National Center of Excellence for Cybersecurity Enterprises. I have got around 350 plus startups, all youngsters coming from engineering colleges. They are doing so much work, and we are incubating products at various IITs and ISCs at tier 2 colleges. So DSCI does this part, and this is funded by the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. So anybody who has any idea that they can create a product of cybersecurity, I'm saying, so we are there to support it. Because this is very important to have when we talk about Atmanirbharta in the earlier session. Atmanirbharta in this domain is very, very critical. Because all these devices, whether say ICT, whether you are talking about the critical infrastructure, a lot of equipment goes from abroad, right? We are buying those equipment, whether it is from US or China, it doesn't matter. Because how do we trust those devices? Because we know about these things. So this is very important that our professionals who are in this domain, they create products which can go into our critical information infrastructure. That's it. Thank you.
DSCI also runs the Cyber Shiksha program.
Yes, वो मैंने बताया अभी आपको.
So that also is supporting a lot of girls, especially, and that is an amazing program. I've worked on it as well.
Great.
Jagannath, my question to you is: are we really Atmanirbhar when it comes to being cyber safe?
No, we are not. Now the point is, firstly, when you said training the girls, cyber is gender agnostic.
I'm talking about a program.
We do it. I'm probably going to just on the lighter side. But let me tell you, what is the end goal of cyber activists? I'm talking about those who want to steal data. So one is that you make them work hard to steal your data. Second is you are so generous you offer your data. Now, what kind of education do you need except understanding that this is something which is precious, I must protect it. And that is what in the earlier days, even our parents who are not degree holders, but at least they could tell us what is Shatru Bodh. They could tell you that, look, this is something which you need to protect. I think this is a consciousness that needs to come up in society, and every possible family, educational society or an organization where you are, you need to ensure that. The next part is, I'm not being an alarmist where you say that everything is gone. So again, this part we must understand, if a few websites are defaced, doesn't mean that your data has been stolen. Websites will be defaced. These are like your compound walls on which somebody writes nonsense from outside and goes away. But what is really scary is if they enter the gate and come and steal things from a house. So please, let's divide that very clearly. One more thing which is important is, and this is not from being looking at only security, but especially important is if they are able to get into your database. One is you can lose your data, and second is they can just poison their data and leave. All your decision making thereafter is going to be on wrong data. So that is what we should be careful of. So data integrity has to be checked even if you feel that your data is accurate and safe. So that is for practitioners. And the relevant portion here is there are certain things like cyber network operations or cyber operations and cyber network exploitation. These are two different things. It is not that everyone is a hacker or everyone is destroying everything. So even those who are hackers, some will come and do a lot of destruction and leave a trail of devastation behind them. So you know that you've been attacked. More dangerous is somebody who's sitting in the server, sitting in your system and every day just collecting information. So this second part is more dangerous. And that is where all the apex level organizations have to be extra careful that what you are getting every day is possibly one of that copy dropping into your adversary's office, and they know exactly, and that's what, if others are doing to us, we are also doing to them.
I'll just add on a few things. One, I think issue of skilling came up multiple times. Just want to tell you that the biggest challenge which we face is that our citizens are not aware of the challenges on the cyber domain. So how do we address this? So we started addressing the school children. Now I think the awareness has to start right from the childhood, when at school levels we can tell them about the intricacies, the challenges in cyberspace. So very recently, this month, the UGC has come out with a largish booklet to make the school children aware of the challenges in cyberspace. We are also looking at skilled professionals who can be groomed in the system. A lot of demand for cyber professionals. So I think mention was made about BTech courses in cybersecurity. Now they need not be, some of these elite institutions like the IITs, they follow a competitive mode of exam selection system through the JEE, etc. Now we needed to have a different pattern for selection of cyber professionals. So can we look at a different approach to selecting these boys and girls in this domain? So that is being attempted. Very soon we'll have some of our institutions doing BTech courses in cybersecurity through a different methodology, adopting a different, maybe a hackathon. As if you win a hackathon like this, then you get admission into an IIT or another institution. So these are the methods which we are actually looking at. Now there are, for more skilled professionals, we are looking at MTechs in computer science on specific areas. Now also understand that I think Vivek mentioned about IT and OT systems. Now OT is a very vast area because there are multiple flavors of cyber. it can be for the financial sector, it can be for the transportation sector, it can be for energy sector. Now all of them have different demands of cybersecurity requirements. So now how do you make them do? So can we have focused MTech cybersecurity programs which are sector specific? That also is something which we are looking at. And at the final thing, I think that time has come. I keep mentioning this. We are trying to push for a cybersecurity university. We require actually multiple ones which can actually teach. It can also assist us in policy formulation, looking at various vulnerabilities, some of the threat actors which Vivek mentioned in his presentation. Now, can you go into more in-depth analysis of this? Can we see how technology is being used to actually change the flavor of cyber attacks? So all these universities which are going to come up very soon, but I think these are all work in progress at this point of time. But I would tell the national, the NCC cadets here, National Cadet Corps is a wonderful opportunity. We are actually using the National Cadet Corps to build cyber hygiene awareness amongst the population. That's something which we're just starting. That initiative is just about to begin. I'm sure the cadets themselves will acknowledge that many of the IITs now have NCC units as part of it. This was not there earlier. Some of the technical institutions were not part of the NCC community. So that has started. So some of these endeavors are on, but as I mentioned, they're all work in progress.
Thank you, sir. I had one last question because I think I've been given a signal over the time. The question was to you, sir, that we're talking about scaling, reskilling and upskilling of military personnel. What about their families? Because they are also one of the most vulnerable aspects of security. So what scaling, upskilling and reskilling are we doing for them?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. In fact, what we have observed over the last few years is that the families are being selectively targeted by our adversaries to extract information, and inadvertently, because of the spread of social media, children and they tend to give out certain information that should be avoided. So a lot of our effort does go in to make children studying in schools, Navy, Army, Air Force schools more aware. We run programs for them. There are capsules being run for them, as well as we as the cyber groups and the cyber agency, we visit all the commands and units, etc. And continuously, there's a continuous process wherein we keep educating and keep raising the awareness levels. Ultimately, it's a national endeavor, and the defense services are part of the national ecosystem. And I think, as NCC sir mentioned, there has to be a national program which makes cyber training, cyber awareness training a mandatory subject for all children, K to 12, and that's when overall our awareness levels will go on, become better. This is a huge risk, but it is being tackled. At least at the services level, it is being tackled.
I think I can add on this. From 2013 onwards, I'm doing this cyber awareness campaign for ladies of Air Force. And very interestingly, I was educating NTPC ladies a week back. In this month is a cyber security awareness month. And I was feeling like I've gone back to my old days of Afwa, when you are getting these kind of invite. And interestingly, whenever I go for a talk in COR, in the evening in the officers' mess, they will catch me for the ladies and kids. And I've been doing it. This is not a structured training, but it's very, very important for the ladies how to be cyber safe while they are. Because today, everybody is online. Lifeline has become online. You will agree with me. And everybody is, sitting with the smartphone, buying a refrigerator or asking for gulab jamun or Swiggy or whatever you call it. So morning till evenings, since the morning when you sit on the throne and you go for sleep, you are totally engaged with this cyber world. So it is very important that each one of us should be cyber aware and what can be done to you by these digital platforms, and it can harm you. Thank you.
Two small points in the end. The entire younger and the senior generation should be aware of this online gaming. At the moment somebody falls into that trap, you have actually opened the gates. So that is one point.
Secondly is these online surveys. These are also extremely dangerous because thereafter your device can be captured. And let me tell you that two serious such instances I can quote. One was when G20 was happening, there were a lot of attacks which took place, and I think it is General Nayar's success. Everything went smoothly. And the second one was when Ram Mandir was being, at Ayodhya was being inaugurated. Maximum number of cyber attacks which the country must have faced was during these two instances. So we don't expect the government only to be protecting us. All of us have to have cyber hygiene. Before you get a vehicle, don't you look at a license? So before parents buy a smartphone for a child, don't you think that there has to be a kind of family consensus that you maintain cyber hygiene? If your personal hygiene is important, so is your cyber hygiene.
I'm sure industry must be having a lot of programs.
The point comes to a very simple, basic piece that we all have gone through. Right when we got into the education, pieces, road safety, fire safety. These were the chapters that we all read. I think time has come that we start with cyber safety as a chapter with all these students.
I'm sure you must be having some CSR programs wherein you would be educating school children, and like how we have the road safety and traffic safety and all of those things, these things could be incorporated. I thank all the panelists for being here today. I request Major General B.K. Sharma, DJ USI, to please come up.
Good morning, everybody. I don't want to sum up, but I just wanted to bring to your notice, particularly the panelists here, some work which USI is doing in the arena of cyber security. Firstly, we have a Center for Cyber Excellence, which has a cyber forensics, data spectrum wall, and we are in the process of creating a cyber range there. And we have die-hard professionals who are working 24/7 on that. Now, how are we applying this whatever facility that we have created? Firstly, about 2 years ago, we conducted a red teaming exercise for 4 Quad countries under the aegis of National Investigation Agency, wherein we played a couple of terrorism scenarios. And mostly the dark web, the dark net, and all these kind of things were brought into play, to maintain that secrecy. That is one. Second, recently we conducted the courses for the Indian Armed Forces officers on deepfake. So that is another facility that we have. The third thing, we've been continuously doing strategic gaming exercises at the National Defense College, war colleges, wherein we are bringing the cyber and the space very much as part of the disruptive technology in the overall campaigning. Now, we have also got some CSR wherein we are doing the cyber responders program, wherein we are training maybe the military, the Army Welfare Education Society guys, NCC, and probably we'll reach out to the RWAs, how to sort of, react and educate your own people about cyber hygiene and safety measures. So my request to you is, and General Nair is aware about what facility we have, and even Defense Cyber Agency, make use of a platform like USI to spread this awareness within the armed forces, their families, and NCC and others. We are available, so please do make use of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I believe we have 2 questions from the audience. We have very limited time, so I request you to please answer.
So I have a question from General Nair regarding, I'm Wing Commander Kulwar, serving in Air Headquarters. We have something called as Security Operations Center, which is looking after the cyber part of the AFNet. It was the tip of the iceberg, which I see that 20% of the attack is towards the government organization. So is there any security operations center working as an apex level at the government level? Why I'm asking this, because once we see any government site, nothing is standardized. All the sites, plethora of information is available. So though there is no standardization. So is there a security operations center who's controlling all the websites of the government? Is there something, firewall or something is working at the place? Because once you get into the sites, you will find everything is there, everything is open. So is something of that kind of nature as there at the apex level, I mean at the government level?
Thank you, Kulwant. I think it's a very valid question actually. I mentioned to you that our digital public infrastructure is growing so rapidly, and my job as a National Cyber Security Coordinator is a major challenge, considering the fact that what you mentioned is absolutely correct. So till about a few months back, there was no clear-cut responsibilities within the various ministries on who should be responsible for cybersecurity, other than what the MeitY had in terms of the certain. So now there's a clear-cut gazette, there's a Government of India notification which clear-cut lays down which ministry is responsible for cybersecurity, that is telecom, the networks which are actually carrying all our information. They are, the DOT is responsible for the security of the telecom networks, the MeitY is responsible for the cyber security in terms of the IT net law which is already there. The Ministry of Home will be responsible for the cyber crime, and the entire coordination and giving a strategic direction to cyber security is the responsibility of the NSCS. So this has now come, this is the first step towards strengthening the ecosystem. There is a National Cyber Security Coordination Center which has been in the making for some time, which is under the MeitY and CERT this point of time. You mentioned about the National Cyber Situational Awareness Center. So that's something which we are planning and which should come through in a few years. So it's been in the offing for some time, but it's work in progress. So let me assure you that it's not as bad as what you actually feel. Many times what you, there are cybersecurity incidents, plethora of it all over, but there is a lot of back-end action which takes place, and you may not know how many incidents have we actually protected the country and the citizens from. So like what he mentioned, General Khandare mentioned about the G20 or the Ram Mandir inauguration time. Now these are things which nobody would even come to know about. So there is a lot of positivity, let me assure you, there is a lot of hope, but there is a lot of work to be done too, that I concede. And let me also tell you that all ministries are on board on this, a lot of activities taking place. It also covers financial sector, all of them have sector regulators who are looking at cybersecurity today. So a lot of work is in progress at this point of time. Okay, I think you can ask the next question, please. I think I took your
Sir, my question is to General Khandare. Sir, basically, if you look at our adversaries, so Chinese have reverse engineered complete box. Reverse engineering is very popular these days. So if we see on those sites, we are still using foreign apps or foreign protection services. We are using Fortinet, we are using Qualys, this, that. We are using everything that is foreign made even today in our infrastructure. We don't have any indigenous thing. So do you think at a later stage, this could be a source of concern? My second question to add on to that is, like TA this year held the Capture the Flag event. Last month it had held a captured flag event, and it attracted a lot of audience within the public. So we see in Israel, we see in US, in UK, capture the flag events are very popular, and it attracts a lot of talent, especially in capturing the flags, those vulnerabilities, everything. So do you think we can incorporate more events throughout the year like this to attract the talent so that they can physically interact with the systems? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. In fact, your point is exactly what I started by saying, that talent spotting is extremely important. Is talent spotting restricted to events, or is talent spotting far widespread so that society can earmark and say, here in our school or here in our family, there is somebody who's outstanding. Most of the talent is in the younger age group. The younger age group still hasn't reached the colleges. So I think as a society, we have to start looking at talent spotting. That is the first part of the question, the answer. The second one is about the apps that are to be made. I am flanked by two gentlemen whose responsibility is this. You understand what I said? And in addition to that, in the civil sector, in the private sector, you have to be very agile in making apps which are popular and apps which are for convenience, as well as apps which are there to get you strategic capture. So, like for example, if Chinese apps are there, they are not so much for your convenience, but to capture your data capture your attention. So these two things obviously have to be done by public-private sector together, and that's what the flanking gentlemen are doing. Now, most of it will not be disclosed here, because when we leave such organization, we sign that if I disclose something, my pension will stop.
We'll take one last question from the gentleman there.
I might sound a little critical. All this appears to be Delhi-centric. If you look at the UGC, for example, it has nothing to do with the schools. Most state boards are blissfully unaware about cyber security and teaching that in the syllabus. Similarly, if you are looking at private-public participation, take the police establishment, for example. You will have an ASP or an SSP being transferred from one point to another, suddenly becomes in charge of a cyber security cell. I do not know what kind of training that person has. There is no private participation in any of this, especially in the police system. Is the government open enough to take persons who have nothing to do with the government service, no formal entry, into your cyber security cell network? And I'm not very sure if it is possible.
Firstly, for the audience, let me tell you, the person who has asked the question, Paranjpe sir, has been the one who has designed the entire syllabus, who has pushed the government to revise the entire books, and he's still at it. And sir, when you ask us, especially for the government, yes, there are problems as far as the police and others and the way the things are moving. And in fact, Dr. Mrinma is here. She is the one who first engaged with the NIA and the local police people to engage them and educate them. I'm not talking of awareness. She actually educated them as to how to do business with the new warfare, which is with the biological and chemical thing. So a lot needs to be done. I just wanted to put the panel at ease as to who's the person asking, and then I can take on the answer now.
So your question is absolutely valid. I mentioned to you, sir, it's taken, the UGC has got nothing to do with the schools, but at least some institution has come out with a document which can actually be spread amongst in fact it's meant for the children. They have actually called it children. It could be right till the college level too. And let me also tell you, sir, that pushing it is also a challenge because our system doesn't accept such new ways of teaching or learning. So that's one thing, but all of us are citizens. Now, aren't we all responsible ourselves for this particular cyber security awareness? Now, do we teach our children? Now, I'm sure, please, you're all on Google, all of you have smartphones. Look at a new law which is proposed in Australia where they said that children will not have access to social media platforms till a particular age. Now, this is the kind of debate which is going on in a country like Australia. Now, do we have, in our family, do we limit our children's exposure to smartphones today? No, we have to look at ourselves, our society is like this. So if that be so, can we start at the school children, address it as a part of our school curriculum? Probably start there, yes. Law enforcement agencies have, it's a major challenge for us because the degree of preparedness for tackling cybercrime or law enforcement agencies today are not properly equipped with it. So many states have started public-private partnerships there. They have taken a lot of private firms for assisting them in their investigation into their forensics analysis, etc., etc. Now, these are all initiatives which have been taken by some state governments, which we have a federated structure. So it is there in our system. Yes, it will take a little time for it to mature, but I'm sure with the new acts coming up, like the DPDP Act, which I'm sure the children can actually Google, and you will see that the data privacy is a major concern in future. But when they become effective through the rules which will come up shortly, I think we will have an ecosystem which is, I don't say perfect, but more secure than what's existing today. So that's what we should, and understand that we all have to play a major game in this, major part in this game. Thank you.
So just I would like to add, we have opened a cybercrime investigation and training research at CID headquarters, Bangalore, Karnataka. So DSCI is training the law enforcement agency professionals, we are police guys. It is actually sitting in the police headquarters itself, sir. And I'm very proudly sharing with you, it's a very world-class digital forensics lab. And we are teaching all the judges, advocates, and the police people, and also from the armed forces. So we are trying to do our bit on that part, as you asked. And this is a center of excellence which you can visit anytime, sir. We don't charge any fees, and then the program is houseful. For entire year we are engaged on that. Thank you, sir.
But if you can just answer, he said this is Delhi-centric.
No, it is not Delhi-centric. It is a Karnataka thing I am saying. Another thing, sir, I'll say. No, I'll add on, sir. We have got another center of excellence in Hyderabad, Telangana government we are doing there. So it is not that, as DSCI is not Delhi-centric, I'm talking about this part. And the government is also doing, we are doing collaborating with the government on many things, which we are trying to put across for the people, for making them aware in this domain. We require two types of people, sir. One, sir, has already mentioned, we are living in a hyper-connected world. We all need to have some cyber hygiene within ourselves. We are not expert. Is this something like, आपको किसी ने स्कूल के टाइम सिखाया खाना कैसे, दाढ़ी कैसे बनानी है, तेल कैसे लगाना है, प्रेजेंटेबल कैसे होना है. तो इस डिजिटल एग्जॉस्ट चल रहा है और डिजिटल वर्ल्ड में आप रह रहे हैं. तो एक तो ये है कि हर व्यक्ति को डिजिटल के बारे में जानना जरूरी है. वो जिम्मेदारी सिर्फ गवर्नमेंट की नहीं, उनके पेरेंट्स की भी है कि जो पहले आया है वो डेफिनेटली जो बाद में आ रहा है उससे थोड़ा सा ज्यादा जानता है. आई एम नॉट सेइंग कि वो उससे बेटर जानता है, बट उससे पहले जानता है. आपके बाप ने आपको चलना सिखाया. दिस इज वन पार्ट. Second comes to the people who are technically competent to protect our IT infrastructure. These two trainings are different. Then experts and the users. A person who is using a computer need not be an expert. But the person who is protecting this computer network has to be a super duper expert. And for that, Nare sir has already mentioned, it is not necessary to hold a degree in cyber domain to become a cyber expert. We have got guys, I've got guys who are working, doing cyber crime. उनको उठा लिया हमने, आज वो गवर्नमेंट के लिए काम करता है और बढ़िया काम करता है. Thank you very much.
If I may add, just for probably 10-15 seconds. So, primarily from the infrastructural, projects of government when it comes to police and other forces. I will not take names, but there are umpteen number of projects with multiple governments that we have, partnered with, that we have executed, wherein one core aspect of the project was to build the skill set and build the capacity of the people as well on working on it. Starting from security operations centers to building the cyber range kind of a simulation setups where these professionals, government professionals get trained. Some states are way ahead, some states are still behind, some ministries are still working on it. But trust me, sir, in the last 5-7 years, phenomenal amount of work has happened. I'll tell you the quality of the professionals that you have on cybersecurity in government organizations and multiple different agencies. I will not take name, probably I can have a separate conversation. We are working with them very closely. It's phenomenal. They are world class. The kind of work that they do today is unmatchable. The kind of skill set that we are seeing here in India as well. So a lot of work has been done from government perspective as well. Many of it does not come out. You will see a lot of cyber crimes are getting solved. And the results are also coming in because, as I said, some states are way ahead. They have taken the lead. They build their security operations center and skill development centers as well. So good work is happening, sir.
Thank you so much. I thank all the panelists for their time, and thank you everyone for being such an interactive audience. And if we have any questions, we can take it later. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Give you honor to the place. Thank you. I will.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being participant, being an active participant for the last session. The third session is equally interesting. we will be discussing exploring the trajectory of Indo-Pak relations.
First person who comes to my
Just what is your
Ghana, China is the authority on
Battle of Kohima and Cross, Second World. They are two fascinating books.
It's a turning point for the Japanese house.
I have no idea.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I request all of you to please settle down for the next session.
Bring into the, Hi, Narsi. Thanks for coming. My pleasure.
Ladies and gentlemen, request please settle down for the next session.
First thing comes to my mind is you. Of course, we've not been interacting, but he was taking care of
The postal than the one before.
The next session for the day is
I was there.
we will be having a panel discussion on exploring the trajectory of Indo-Pak relations. India's tumultuous and complex diplomatic relations with its neighbor Pakistan have been rife with long-standing issues such as the Kashmir dispute and cross-border terrorism since the time of partition. In this panel, we dive into the intricate history and psychological dimensions of the relationship. The troubled diplomatic relationship between India and Pakistan will provide an in-depth exploration of the strained ties between the two nations. The session will offer valuable insights into one of the most significant and challenging bilateral relationships in South Asia.
grooming us, and then we became China. She attends everything.
We have with us former Head of Research and Analysis Wing, Amarjeet Singh Dullat. Sir, kindly join us on the stage, please. Amarjeet Singh Dullat is a former head of the Research and Analysis Wing, India's external intelligence agency. After retirement, he was appointed advisor on Kashmir in the Prime Minister's office and served there from January 2001 to May 2004. During this time, he accumulated a vast reservoir of goodwill with Kashmiris of all shades. As Jane's Intelligence Digest put it in 2001, well known for his social skills, Dullat preferred dialogue to clandestine maneuvers. In his heyday, Dullat was referred to as Mr. Kashmir. He was born in Sialkot, Punjab in December 1940. After India's partition, his father, Justice Shamsher Singh Dullat, relocated his family to Delhi. After schooling in Delhi, Shimla and Chandigarh, Dullat joined the Indian Police Services in 1965 and then the Intelligence Bureau in 1969, where he served for almost 30 years. At the IB, he headed the Kashmir group during the turbulent 1990s till he joined and headed the RAW. He is the author of Kashmir, The Vajpayee Years, The Spy Chronicle, RAW, ISI and the Illusion of Peace, and A Life in the Shadows. To share this valuable insight, I request Ambassador Ajay Bisaria to please come up on the stage. Ambassador Ajay Bisaria is a corporate strategic advisor and a distinguished fellow at the Observer Research Foundation. In a career spanning 35 years in the Indian Foreign Service, he dealt with some of India's key economic and security relationships. He served as the Indian High Commissioner to Canada 2020 to 2022 and was the last Indian High Commission to Pakistan 2017 to 2020. He has been India's ambassador to Poland and Lithuania. He has earlier been posted at the World Bank in Washington, D.C. and in embassies in Berlin and Moscow. He has served in various capacities in the Government of India, including the Prime Minister's office, where he was a key aide to Prime Minister Vajpayee. He has a BA in Economics from St. Stephen's College, Delhi, an MBA from IIM Calcutta, and a Master's in Public Policy from Princeton University. He writes extensively on geopolitics and particularly on Pakistan. His first book, Anger Management, on the troubled diplomatic relationship between India and Pakistan, was released in January 2024 to critical and popular acclaim. To moderate this session, we have Ambassador TCA Raghavan joining us. Ambassador Raghavan retired from the Indian Foreign Services in December 2015 as the Indian High Commissioner to Pakistan 2013-2015. He had earlier served as Deputy High Commissioner in Pakistan and High Commissioner to Singapore from 2009 to 2013. During his last posting in New Delhi in the Ministry of External Affairs, Dr. Raghavan was Joint Secretary dealing with Pakistan, Afghanistan and Iran. He has also served in Kuwait, the United Kingdom and Bhutan. He was awarded a PhD by the Jawaharlal Nehru University in 1992 for his dissertation relating to the economic history of India. He has authored Attended Lords, Bairam Khan and Abdur Rahim, courtier and poet in Mughal India, History Men Jadunath Sarkar, G.S. Sardesai, Raghubir Singh and their quest for India's past and more. He assumed charge as Director General, Indian Council of World Affairs on 24th July 2018. Sir, we would like to have a group photograph first.
Excuse me, we go on for an hour. We are starting 10 minutes late, so we go on till 1. So we have enough time. So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and first of all, may I thank General Sharma for putting together this panel and inviting me to moderate it. It's always a great pleasure and a privilege to be on the panel, same panel as Mr. Dullab, and of course with Ajay Bisaria. Both of them have written 2 wonderful books in the recent past. Mr. Dullab has co-authored this book with General Asad Durrani and with Neil Agarwal, and its title is Covert. Ajay has written this wonderful book, not just about his tenure in Pakistan, but his tenure in the wider context of India-Pakistan diplomatic history for the past 70 years. And it will be wonderful to talk to both of them, not just about the books, but also about India and Pakistan in general. Now, Mr. Dullab, I should say, did something extraordinary a few years ago. And what he did was get together with the former Director General of the ISI, Inter-Services Intelligence, and both of them together jointly reflected on their careers as intelligence officers for their respective countries. And it attracted a great deal of attention, and this book is part of that same endeavor. The earlier book, if I may start with you, sir, I think had the subtitle, The Illusion of Peace. That's right. So is it an illusion? Is India-Pakistan diplomacy basically, when it works, right now as we know it's not working, but when it works, is it trying to go closer to an illusion, or is there something more to it?
Yeah, you know, it's, first of all, let me say thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me here. When I left home, I didn't know where I was, what I was coming in for. And my wife said, "Where are you going?" I said, I'm going to the IIC. He said, what for? I bet it's Kashmir. I said, I don't know what it is. And only here I learned that it's India, Pakistan. But actually one thing leads to another. And I think it's very privileged to be here and to be with two of our most, I would say, illustrious ambassadors to Pakistan. So they know Pakistan much better than I do. I've never dealt with Pakistan. But I have, I've spent a lifetime, 37 years now, doing Kashmir or looking at Kashmir. I don't do anything there now. But I keep watching Kashmir from day to day. And inevitably, Kashmir leads you to Pakistan. And as Ambassador Raghavan mentioned, we did something which was quite extraordinary. General Asad Durrani and myself, we used to meet at these track 2 meetings. And gradually we got to know each other, and sometimes we would sit together also. And there was this gentleman, Peter Jones, from the University of Ottawa, who used to hold some of these track 2 things. And he said one day to us, you guys get along so well, why don't you think of writing a book? So I looked at the general and he laughed and he said, even if we were to write fiction, nobody would believe it, nobody would trust what we are saying or writing. So anyway, time passed and I wrote a book on Kashmir. And that book went to Pakistan. And I asked General Durrani, who had gradually become a friend, I said, how has the book been received in Pakistan? He said, extremely well. And he said, now I think you and I can do a book. So actually it was the Vajpayee years, as the title of my book on Kashmir was, led to Spy Chronicles and The Illusion of Peace. The Illusion of Peace, actually, that's the title, the title is always reserved for the publishers. But the two of us thought, while we were doing it, we thought we were contributing to the idea of India and Pakistan getting together. He used to say, you're much more of an optimist. So I said, yes, General Saab, you're a realist and I'm an optimist, but what to do? Life sometimes makes you like that. So, and that book actually created a furor much more in Pakistan than here. I got my share of brickbats, but the poor general had his pension stopped and also he was prevented from leaving the country. So he was in some trouble, but he's a fighter, he fought back. And he's all right now. And he was all ready for Spy Chronicles 2. When this thing happened quite accidentally with a psychiatrist, who got both of us to talk on Zoom for 7 times for 2 hours each, and we produced a book. So that's what this book is all about.
Well, thank you very much, sir. But you say you're an optimist, but at the same time you confess that The Illusion of Peace was the publisher's choice. So I'll come back to that, because I think many people think that it's not just a publisher's gimmick, but in fact India-Pakistan relations, you're constantly in pursuit of an illusion. So Ajay, I wanted to begin with your book and about Pakistan, but I should confess, Ajay has also been High Commissioner in Canada. And Canada today looks more and more like Pakistan. So is there something, would you agree that there's something in the India-Canada interface right now which is strangely resembling what often happened in India-Pakistan encounters?
Thank you, Raghu. Great to be here, great to be joining this panel. And let me start with your question.
I don't think I buy this media portrait that Canada is the new Pakistan. It isn't, because the problem is not so deep, but it's a good headline to have. They've been saying that Canada is the new Pakistan and Bangladesh is the new East Pakistan, so we are back to the old days. But I think that's a kind of headline-grabbing generalization, because in Canada, to begin with, this problem, this current irritant, is being seen as a limited problem between the two governments and diplomacy, and it has not affected business and visas. So the flights are on, visas are on, business is on, immigration is at its peak, people want to go. And, but in a very limited sense, there is a central security problem on which the two countries have a disagreement. But at the moment, India is seeing it as a problem confined to the Trudeau government, rather than Canada as a whole. So this irritant of the Khalistanis has been present in Canada for 4 decades plus. So it periodically expresses itself, and I think often it's badly managed and it gets out of hand. So that is the story. But let me also comment on Dullat Saab's book. You asked him about the illusion of peace. So I can tell a story that when the book was written, it was quite a dramatically new idea of two service chiefs of intelligence of two rival countries writing this book. And I read it and I was, found it fascinating, and the launch was in Delhi. So I was told that Asad Durrani was coming to the High Commission for a visa. So I said, I have to meet this man. I must meet him. So, he was a little worried that I'm meeting this new guy. Will he reject my visa or what? So I said, look, this is fascinating. It's wonderful. I think democracy should stand for freedom of speech, and it will be wonderful if you go to Delhi, and I'm going to support this. So we made a strong case to support his visit to Delhi. And finally, somebody in the system got cold feet and said, no, this might be too explosive to have Dullat Saab and him sitting together at IIC or wherever that was for the launch. So it did not happen. But later, I met him at an Islamabad party, and I had come to know that his pension had been stopped. So I remember calling up Dullat Saab and saying, sir, would you like to contribute to his pension? Because you're responsible for having it stopped. So I think that that itself is a dramatic new step. And now that we are out of government and we're all analysts, we see the value of people who've been in government writing about incidents. I think we all get enriched by that. But on your question on whether, we're talking of the illusion of peace, I think that has been a theme always, in India-Pakistan relations all these years. Because the argument, one credible argument is that the problem is centrally structural. The structure of Pakistan, which is dictated by the dominance of the army, and therefore this foundational enmity towards India. And therefore, peace will always be an illusion. It will always be something that cannot become a reality. But like Dullat Saab, I would disagree with that thesis. I think there is space for leadership and space for diplomacy to change some of those realities.
Okay, so let me now press both of you a bit on the optimistic aspect and the illusionary aspect. We are currently in the midst of a very severe downturn in India-Pakistan relations. And this is, there have been many downturns before, but this is possibly the longest ever. And if you take the downturn beginning from mid-2016, it's almost 8 years. You've never had such a long period of strained relations. In the last 4 or 5 years, there are no high commissioners. There's a ban on trade. There's virtually no visas being issued by either side, and the rest of the atmospherics which you're all conscious of. Now, there's a large constituency, sir, which would say that this is a new normal, that this is the way relations with Pakistan should be in the future also. That we have securitized the relationship, we will deal with the problems which emerge on account of terrorist attacks kinetically, and there's really nothing more to be done. Would you agree with that? That A, is this a new normal, and is this the best way to proceed?
No, I actually believe it's a mad normal. Because, the point is, and I had the privilege of working closely with Prime Minister Vajpayee for 5.5 years. And I remember him saying once when he was close to the border that you can change or you can choose friends, but you can't change neighbors. This is a reality. Pakistan is a reality. You can't wish it away. That Pakistan doesn't matter. Of course it matters. And I must say, I woke up very disappointed this morning. I normally start by reading the sports page. And I was very sad to see that the BCCI has decided or said that India will not go to Pakistan for the Champions Trophy in February. The other day, you must have read this speech by, I forget his initials, but former Foreign Secretary Jagat Mehta's son in the Express.
Vikram Mehta.
Vikram Mehta, okay. I think he works for an oil company. I've met him a couple of times. And he wrote a piece in the Express. And, he said that his grandfather, I think the name was Mohan Singh Mehta, was the first ambassador to Pakistan in 1950.
Second, yeah. Second or third. Yeah.
Well, he quoted it as first. So anyway, whatever, second, third, whatever he was. And then he said, how his father had dealt with Pakistan when he was Foreign Secretary of State. And then he mentioned that, he and Imran were together in Oxford. And he went for, there were two Indians who went for Imran's swearing in, Navjot Sidhu and Vikram Mehta. And in that piece he said, well, he was hoping that India would join in the Champions Trophy in Pakistan. But alas, that has not happened. But the point is, I like my friend Azad Durrani says, you're an optimist. I've become more of a realist, but I would say that we have no option. What is the option? Does anybody think that we should go to war with Pakistan? You can ask anybody, ask any of the generals. They say no, no. So if war is not an option, what is the other option? The other option is to talk, to engage. I was reading somewhere that even chimps talk to each other, monkeys talk to each other. But India and Pakistan will not talk to each other. What sense does it make? To me, sorry to say, sir, I think it's the mad normal, if this is the normal.
Well, thank you. Ajay, if I can just go back to something you said, because it will also bring in Mr. Dullat's other passion, which is Kashmir. You spoke about there being a structural problem in India-Pakistan relations. Now, is it a structural problem or is Kashmir the problem? I mean, there is a view, and this is a view which has been there for many years, that even supposing, and suppose is a big suppose, but still, even supposing you find a resolution to Kashmir which is mutually acceptable, it will not make really a difference to the nature of the India-Pakistan interface. Where would you weigh in on this debate?
So I would certainly argue, and I've done that in my book, that it is a structural problem, and even if you magically solve the Kashmir issue, the problem remains. And my argument has been, and several before me, including academics, have made that argument, that the problem stems from an identity crisis in Pakistan, as an identity which was never defined at the foundational moment and never really resolved all through the years, and that expresses itself in a quest for security, a quest for identity, a quest for territory. So the quest for territory of Kashmir, the whole slogan of Kashmir Banega Pakistan, was a part of this larger structural problem, which also allowed the army to take over and capture the polity in a way that it has continued through either direct rule for 35 years or hybrid systems. And in fact, we are speaking in a week where we've had a silent constitutional coup in Pakistan, where the army chief currently has declared himself that he can get an extension and be he has a tenure of 5 years, he can be there for 10 years. So, we've been reading about Pakistan where army chiefs had 3 or 6 or 10 years of tenure, depending on where they were, 3 years officially, 6 years on an extension, and 10 years if they launched a coup. And now he has it without needing a coup. He will be there for 10 years, and as a SOC, he's given the same thing to the air chief and the naval chief. But what we essentially have a system where I would argue the structure is of an army elite that has captured the polity and defines itself by a certain animosity towards India. But against that backdrop, I would argue that there is a lot of play for leadership, for diplomacy. And even if you take this decade, we could argue that the relationship plunged after you left Pakistan. You left.
Actually, it did.
You left in 2015, December, and 2016 was a bad year, and it plunged. And since then, let's say we have a policy of no talks with terror. But even within that policy, there have been nuances. So I was High Commissioner for the Modi government for 2 years in that period, and within this negative cycle, there were micro cycles of positivity. Because if you look at the last 9 years and you try to make the balance sheet and look at the positives, you had a ceasefire in 2021 when there were no high commissioners. You had the Kartarpur corridor, which was negotiated, agreed and signed in 2019, and went for 5 years, and then quietly got an extension last week for another 5 years. So you have this bit of positivity. You haven't had a major terrorist attack or spectacular attack of the Pulwama kind, and a significant drop in terrorism. However, terrorism continues in new forms, and we've seen that recently. So I would argue that we've reached a stage where it is a highly securitized relationship. And from India's point of view, there is play, but the deal breaker is and will be terrorism. And that we've seen recently, even when Foreign Minister Jaishankar went to Pakistan for the SCO summit, he had made a 3-point positive policy statement. He said the era of uninterrupted dialogue is over, which it was more than a decade ago. He said that the Kashmir Article 370 was a done deal, which it was done 5 years ago. And the third thing he said is that we will not be passive. If Pakistan moves positively, we'll be positive. If it moves negatively, we'll be negative. So there was a message that in his going to Pakistan and in general, that if the security issue of terrorism can somehow be resolved, India would be willing to move forward in grabbing at least the low-hanging fruit.
So do you think we have a bee in our bonnet about the Pakistan army? As Ajay said, we concluded a ceasefire on the line of control with Pakistan at a time when India-China relations were at their lowest ebb for at least in the last 50 years. And certainly the ceasefire meant that we would not be as stretched as we were, both on facing the north and facing Pakistan. It did help a great deal. And this happened very much with the knowledge and with perhaps a push from the Pakistan military. We deal quite easily with militaries which run the roost in Myanmar or in Thailand. Do you think we have a bee in our bonnet about the Pakistan military?
No, I don't think so. I think the bee in our bonnet is Pakistan. After all, we dealt with Musharraf. You know? He was both army chief, president, everything. And I think he was the most reasonable Pakistani leader that I have seen on Kashmir in the last 30 years. And I've been watching it for 37 years. You know, a lot of people, we all talk about Kashmir. I don't know how many in this hall have been to Kashmir. When I say I've been to Kashmir, everybody goes there as a tourist, you know. You've been to Gulmarg, you played golf in Pahalgam. Yeah, everybody goes. And the narrative set out is that everything is normal there, you know. So only tourists have gone. And it is to defeat that narrative every now and then that terror goes up. Why don't we understand this? You know, why don't we start understanding Kashmir for a change before you get to Pakistan? I don't think we understand Kashmir, you know. And the thing is that I don't think Kashmir is an issue with Pakistan in the way that we imagine it to be. So we look for excuses, you know. Kashmir has become an excuse. Like Ajay said, that terror and dogs don't go together. I would suggest something different. Let's talk only about terror, leave out Kashmir. I think Pakistan would be quite willing to address terror without Kashmir. But if you say we won't talk and nothing happens. Now you mentioned that 2021 ceasefire. I thought it was a very positive development, a move forward. And in fact, I wrote a piece at that time in the Tribune saying they should open more doors. But it shut everything. Nothing happened after that, you know. Now there is the Indian narrative and there is the Pakistani narrative. What was the Indian narrative? Soon articles started appearing that this is another Pakistani trick. The ceasefire was a Pakistani trick. The Pakistanis say India wanted a ceasefire because India was stuck in East Ladakh. So they wanted movement of troops, they wanted a ceasefire. Whatever it is, there was, according to the Pakistani narrative, and I think both of you should know it better than me, that there were some other unwritten things that were sort of agreed to. Okay, this will follow. And the Pakistanis said nothing followed. There is a ceasefire, and thankfully it holds on the ground. Now, there is a point which I have to raise here, and that is that politics will never settle in the India-Pakistan relationship. If you are looking to win elections, you'll never be able to deal with Pakistan. It requires statesmanship of the degree of Prime Minister Vajpayee and Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh. Then we'll be able to move forward. How did Vajpayee take that bus to Lahore? It was statesmanship. And he went not only took the bus to Lahore, he went the next day to the Minar-e-Pakistan and signed in the visitors book there that a strong, stable Pakistan was in our interest. Now today actually Pakistan, as Ajay also alluded, is going downhill. In every sort of way, it's going downhill. And the more it goes downhill, in my view, the more dangerous it becomes to us. And the more we'll see of terror if Pakistan keeps going downhill and we do not deal with Pakistan. The Kashmiri leaders now, we talk of Kashmir, I'm talking of our own leaders. And I'm not talking of the militants, the separatists, this, that and the other. The two mainstream leaders in Pakistan have for the last 3 years, Dr. Farooq Abdullah and Mehbooba Mufti have for the last 3 years been saying, please talk to Pakistan. Sheikh Saab said, long ago, the great Sheikh Muhammad Abdullah, that unless we settle with Pakistan, Kashmir will never be settled. Those of you who read history might recall that Mountbatten came here as a special guest on Republic Day 1946. He knew that Panditji's health was deteriorating, and he took Panditji aside and said, please settle with Pakistan, otherwise Kashmir will never be resolved. I think Kashmir is more or less resolved, but why are we not talking to Pakistan?
If I can play the devil's advocate, and Ajay, I think you went on the bus with Prime Minister.
No, I joined right
You joined later, but you were private secretary to Prime Minister Vajpayee, and thereafter you saw the Manmohan Singh period. Suppose I was to ask Mr. Dullar that why should we be goody-goody all the time? After all, Prime Minister Vajpayee, yes, took major steps, went to Lahore, Bas Yatra, but then Kargil followed. Dr. Manmohan Singh took grave political risks. He invested such capital as he had in the India-Pakistan relationship, more than anyone else had before, and then Mumbai happened. Prime Minister Modi, to his credit, went the extra mile. And I was in Lahore when he visited for Nawaz Sharif's granddaughter's wedding, but each time there was a severe rebuff, and in the end we are a democracy. You are answerable to public opinion and to public sentiment. Does it put too much of a burden on our political leadership to expect them to take these major steps and risks all the time?
Okay, let me start with.
And then maybe Mr. Bhagat, you can respond.
Talk about this. You know,
I'm ready to respond.
I would argue that the political instinct in the minds of our prime ministers from Nehru to Modi has been similar about Pakistan. I would argue that it is politically sexier for them to say I resolved the Pakistan conundrum than to say I fixed Pakistan or I had a war with it or I attacked Pakistan. And I would say if you look at the evidence in history, each prime minister tried in their own way. Mrs. Gandhi's time was different. There was 1971. That was a different historical circumstance. But when Vajpayee went in '99 on that bus, he was conscious that the two countries had gone nuclear. He had a certain nuclear responsibility, and he took that what Clinton called risk for peace. And I think Manmohan Singh tried with the back channel and so on, and even Prime Minister Modi's instincts in the first 2 years were exactly that. And I have had this conversation with Modi a few times, and it was exactly, can we resolve this issue? He met Nawaz Sharif 5 times. He was sending saris to Nawaz Sharif's mother. They were talking to each other periodically, and in the end, he took that risk of taking a Pakistani chopper to Rawalpindi and thinking maybe something could change. But the deal breaker always in this relationship, at least in the last 3 decades, has been terrorism. So I think now in the political mind, there is a fear that I make a move and there is a major terrorist backlash, then I start looking, it's a political capital being lost. And this, you saw that instinct play out to an extent even with Jaishankar's visit to Islamabad, because there was an incident after that in Kashmir, and he was asked, why did you go? And he said, look, I went for a multilateral meet. So I think the risk of a terrorist backlash is always present. And I think political leaders have taken that step despite that risk, factoring in that risk, but it certainly is a risk.
So can you then, sir, blame our political leadership for being risk averse? I mean, there is a certain risk aversion with Pakistan.
What is the risk? I haven't understood. I think there is a greater risk in not talking to Pakistan. Look at the terrorism that we have now in Kashmir. It's gone up. It's gone up many-fold in the last 6 months. So are we talking to Pakistan? Is it because we are talking to Pakistan? It goes up whenever Pakistan wants it to go up. Why don't we understand that? And I don't know what the mood in Pakistan is all about, but from whoever I talk to, whenever I've talked to Pakistanis, they always say, why can't we move forward? Why can't we do something to move forward? And let me, now Ajay is being selective here. Let me remind you of something more about Prime Minister Vajpayee and Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh. That, when he went to, I'm sure you were at that reception in the governor's house in Lahore,
Not in 99, but in 2004.
No, I'm talking about 99.
99.
Now, this is a story narrated to me by the DIG of Lahore. He said that, in the morning, Atalji had gone to Minar-e-Pakistan. In the afternoon, there was a reception for him at the governor's house in Lahore. And he says that when Atalji entered along with Mian Saab, the Prime Minister of Pakistan, some people got up, some people didn't even get up. When our Prime Minister entered. But then, among various things, Atalji said that when I go back home, my party people are going to ask me, तुम्हें लाहौर जाना था तो तुम गए, वहां जाने की क्या जरूरत थी? मीनार पाकिस्तान, पाकिस्तान पे अपनी मोहर लगानी थी. And Atalji said there, पाकिस्तान को हमारी मोहर की जरूरत नहीं है, पाकिस्तान की अपनी मोहर चलती है. And this DIG said everybody stood up and clapped for 5 minutes. Now I'll remind you of something more. Of the 17th of April 2003, and it's a very important district because I think it was the last meaningful public meeting addressed by a Prime Minister in Srinagar. 17th of April 2003. And among other things, Prime Minister Vajpayee said there, to the great joy of the Kashmiris, he said, I've held out a hand of friendship twice to Pakistan, and we have been betrayed twice. But I have not given up hope. I am going to try one more time. And he did. He went in January 2004 for the SAARC summit in Islamabad. So it was not as if nothing was happening during all that period. I can tell you that the Principal Secretary at NSA, who I worked very closely with, Brajesh Mishra, was also involved in a back channel, which led to Vajpayee's visit to Islamabad. So if you want to do things, now coming to Dr. Manmohan Singh, you see, Dr. Manmohan Singh had a problem. He was not a Hindu. Yeah, I can tell you a Kashmiri calling me up when I said to him, we had started engaging the separatists. You remember there were 2 rounds of talks with Advani. And these separatists were coming to Delhi and talking to Advaniji. And those rounds stopped because the BJP lost the election in May. But at one time, because of the engagement of the separatists with Advani, they were referred to in Srinagar as the Advani Hurriyat. So I told these Hurriyat guys, because I had left the PMO along with Prime Minister Vajpayee and Brajesh Mishra, I said, why don't you carry on what we were doing? And one of these, the more learned among the Hurriyat leaders said to me, अब इसके साथ सरदार के साथ क्या बात करेंगे? हमारी प्रॉब्लम तो हिंदू इंडिया के साथ है ना, और वो हिंदू इंडिया के साथ प्रॉब्लम हजूर कश्मीर में आज भी है, आप माने या ना माने. We will say everything, we can say everything, and I am glad that this election has gone off very well. It's a fantastic result. It's a victory for Kashmir, it's a victory for the main regional party there. But in the Kashmiri mind, the period from 2019 to 2024, this period till this election, India or Delhi has been despised in Kashmir. Why don't we accept this?
Ajay, if I press you on this, the period between 2019 and 2024, of course it has had, there's a huge domestic debate and there are different points of view, but in Pakistan, don't you think this period seriously questioned Pakistan's sense of entitlement about Kashmir in a way which has not been done for some time now. And the second question, again, to touch on what Mr. Dullat said, don't you think there was also a sense of entitlement amongst the quote-unquote separatists and so on, which is reflected in in what they said to you? There is this sense of entitlement that I somehow need a certain package and nobody can deny it to me. I think all of that, the fact that those entitlements have been questioned is a good thing.
Right, I would certainly lean towards that argument. And just to respond more broadly to the points Dullat Saab is making. One, I would certainly agree on the need for communicating with Pakistan, either back channel or front channel or whichever way. Because I think the situation now, and particularly after Pakistan is going through a poly crisis and possibly its weakest moment in its history from 2021, the power differential between us is 10x in terms of GDP, in terms of military capacity, in terms of national capacity. And my fear is that we are perhaps moving to postures, or some people are recommending a posture from the 90s, 2000s. We could argue there was a strategic obsession about Pakistan. We might be veering to the other end towards strategic neglect, which I think is dangerous because it is a strategic challenge. Israel saw that in October last year. They thought Gaza was a settled issue and not a strategic challenge. That strategic neglect can have terrible consequences, especially in terms of terrorism. The second point I would make is that, on the Kashmir issue, much has changed from the Vajpayee era. Because now with 2019 and Article 370 and 5 years gone, I think in the Indian policy mind, the conflation between Pakistan and Kashmir will no longer exist. Pakistan will be treated as foreign policy, and there could be a conversation and negotiation about a border, as with China, but a Kashmir conversation is an internal conversation. It's domestic policy. And I don't think we will have a situation of an Indian political leader going to Kashmir and pandering to anyone's sense of entitlement about saying that we will have a certain policy towards Pakistan. It will be independent and a sort of federal policy. So I think that is something that that change is dramatic.
Okay, I know we can keep discussing this forever, but I'm sure there are many questions from the audience. I did want to touch on one more point, but I'll give the audience an opportunity first. So I'll take 2-3 questions together and then ask both Ambassador Bisaria and Mr. Dullat to respond. Yeah, please go ahead.
So, Mr. Bisaria, I have a question for you. So, recently in JNK Assembly, there are talks of the notification issue to restore Article 370. How do you see that in the wider context of India-Pak relations? And would you say that India as a country, whether it's political leadership or even the activists or anyone, is kind of obsessed with peace with Pakistan, but Pakistan on the other hand is obsessed with only Kashmir?
Okay, yes, go ahead.
Firstly, I'd like to, Kashmir by itself is a separate issue. I'll deal with Pakistan only. But I'll just like to say with all humility, sir, this audience sitting here, particularly I can say for the armed forces fraternity, they know Kashmir quite a bit, sir. And besides the combat part, they have done quite a service in winning hearts and minds of Kashmiri people. And lots of Kashmiri people recognize it. So, out of this audience, the people who belong to service fraternity, they know Kashmir quite well. So I can vouch for that. That's one thing.
Agreed. Okay.
Okay. Second thing, sir, I like to say, we have, I'll start with Manish Ayer's My Kashmir Papers. Where
you can be brief, yes. So what is your question?
He says the issue was Pakistan's relationship was anti-East, anti-India and Islam. The author of Indus Saga says right after 700 AD, we have already been there in some form or other. Afghanistan. So it's nothing new. But we have not covered certain things. I would request if it can be amplified slightly, Musharraf Vajpayee, what was the demilitarization and disengagement, a little bit on that, and some issues on what's the stand now is 370 gone, Pakistan, China angle, and Siachen. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the young man behind, yeah, go ahead.
Thank you for taking my question. My question is concerning the sentiment in Kashmir when it comes to the outsiders. Recently, there has been killings, or there have been unfortunate killings of people who immigrated to Kashmir for work purposes and all. So, what would be your take on that, and how to solve such a thing if there is actually sentiment?
So we'll take these three questions and then come back for the second round, beginning with General Sharma. Sir, you first. Sir,
Sir, I admit I was not talking of the armed forces. I can only add about the armed forces that I have spoken to people in the middle ranks, and sometimes middle rank officers have said to me that I don't know what we are doing in Kashmir, what our policy on Kashmir is. I'll leave it at that. I go along with you, but please listen to what I've also heard, and you would agree with that as well.
Ajay, what about the recent terror attacks?
Yes, the first question you also asked about how Pakistan looks at Article 370. Pakistan is conflicted. And this policy that it had was very confused, and the army folks would admit this. Because right from the beginning, from the 50s, they looked at Article 370 as a fake autonomy. The Pakistan army then said that this was something cooked up by Nehru and Sheikh Abdullah. It wasn't genuine. In any case, it was hollowed out in 53. So they were, while the civilians under Imran Khan got very confused in 2019 and they said no talks until all this is reversed, the army was not saying that. The army continued to say, oh, there is oppression there, but not that autonomy should be withdrawn. So this, I think Pakistan stands confused on this particular issue, and certainly would be changing its stance that no talks with India till Article 370 is around. On recent terrorism, again, this is a constant challenge. The bigger picture is that the overall numbers compared to, say the early part of the century, 2000, 2001, when we had a much higher number of terrorist incidents, as well as infiltration numbers, has been significantly lower, but I feel there is a pattern to it. And the pattern to it was that there wasn't significant terrorism in the run-up to the federal election because Pakistan feared giving India another Pulwama. They felt that in 2019 they helped the Modi BJP to win by Pulwama, and this time they didn't want to. So the moment Modi is sworn in, 2 hours before that the first terrorist incident starts, and that goes on. We had about 15 incidents in Jammu and Kashmir for a month. The moment elections were announced in 15th August, suddenly again terrorism stopped. So this tap was being switched on, it was being switched off. There were hardly any incidents in the campaign period, the elections went off well. But after Omar Abdullah was sworn in, again now we've had this Kashmir Valley sleeper cells, hybrid terrorists who are active again. So I think there is a pattern, there is a capacity to inflict damage. The tap gets turned on and off based on the Pakistan Army's assessment of how it will help its larger strategic purpose. So it is a tool being used by Pakistan, and it will continue to matter in our diplomacy because it can become a deal breaker for it.
General Sharma,
I might just add, as you mentioned, interesting this thing about the tap being turned on and off. Long ago, there was a Kashmiri militant leader, one of the top Hizbul Mujahideen leaders, who came across to our side. And he used to say that,
this tap can be turned on and off any time by the Americans. We just have to tell Pakistan and the tap will be turned off. On the question of, of 370, I'm sorry I'm butting it. On the question of 370, actually, this was Imran Khan's time. And he was quite willing to say, step back and say, this is your domestic issue, we will not interfere in this. And between Bajwa and Imran, they were at that point of time, I'm talking of 2019, going up to 2021, when the ceasefire happened, they were being very reasonable. In fact, there was disappointment in Pakistan and in Kashmir that Pakistan had done nothing after the abrogation. They had not reacted to the abrogation at all, apart from withdrawing the High Commissioner from here. And again, Ajay, you mentioned the early 2000s. Early 2000s, in fact, that was the period of Atalji and Musharraf. It was very peaceful because, the ceasefire of 2003 lasted for a number of years and everything went down. Terror went down, infiltration went down, and we had a long peaceful period.
General Sharma, you had a question.
My question is to Bilal sir. Sir, I'm from JNK and I speak fluent Kashmiri, but my question to you is, what do we talk to Pakistan on Kashmir? I mean, what should be there? Even the National Conference leadership is saying, talk to Pakistan and then peace will come to Kashmir. But there's been a long history of a composite dialogue with Pakistan, and we went into the extent of softening the borders, opening trade, all kinds of things were there. But you would see that this cross-border terrorism, it remained in some form or the other. What is that new incentive that we can give to Pakistan to sort of be a little more accommodative? I mean, I have not really understood what is, if you are in the spearheading this kind of a dialogue, what would you put on the agendas?
No, I think you got me wrong. I think I said, and I still maintain that Kashmir is not an issue anymore. It's gone out of the Kashmiri Pakistan, let me tell you. Let me go back to 47 to 2024. What have we been trying to do in Kashmir? What is our Kashmir policy? Zilch. The only policy we've had in Kashmir is try and get Pakistan out of the Kashmiri mind. And we've succeeded to a very large extent. Pakistan is lost now. Pakistan is over in Kashmir. So Kashmir is not, please get this out of our minds, that Kashmir is not the main issue with Pakistan anymore. Yeah, they bring it up. And the Kashmiri also brings it up because it's a fallback position for him. Where does he go? If Delhi won't listen, if Delhi won't talk, if Delhi won't engage, then he talks Pakistan. But believe you me, Pakistan is not an issue. I have been to track to meetings, umpteen meetings. Sometimes I have said to Pakistanis to provoke them, what about your core issue? And Imran himself said when he was Prime Minister, we can put Kashmir on the back burner. Let's move on.
Well, we have, sir, in that case, I'm sorry, you have mentioned that Kashmir is not an issue with Pakistan. So in that case, what is the intent that the Pakistan government has to turn on and turn off the tap every time? What do they intend to gain, or what do they intend to project when they turn on the tap?
I can explain that. You see, like I said, in 2019, there was huge disappointment in Kashmir that the Pakistanis have not said anything for Kashmir after the abrogation. And so now this is a good period to again show that we are around, we are with you. We can still cause damage whenever required. It's not that the story is over. But what I'm trying to say is, and I'm trying to say what these two wise ambassadors of ours should say, that it's a diplomatic matter in which Kashmir can be left out. It's not a military thing,
But whenever they want to create...
yeah, we've got your point. Ajay, would you like to come in? That can we leave Kashmir out in talking to Pakistan?
I think we are repeating a conversation that we've really had for several decades. The policy dilemma in India's mind has always been, will help with talking to Pakistan help, will not talking to Pakistan help, on the issue of terrorism. Now, on the issue of Kashmir, we settled it a while ago, at least after 1994. India says there's no problem talking about Jammu and Kashmir, as we would discuss the border with any foreign country. Because after 94 and our parliamentary resolution, we said, okay, from India's point of view, the issue is how to get POK back, which is in your custody. And Pakistan might want to frame it to their advantage. And why I think this continues, because the default position of Pakistan's army, which lacks imagination, is to continue trying to create trouble in Kashmir and not let India get away with a narrative that all is normal, back-to-back federal and provincial elections and no violence. India is heading to integrate Kashmir and normalize Kashmir. That is not acceptable to them in their mindset, because they want to give the impression of a Kashmir inferment.
Well, thank you very much. We can continue this discussion for a very long time, but we've run out of time. So may I thank firstly the audience, then the USI and General Sharma for arranging this, and also the two panelists. The two takeaways I think which are important and on which most of us agree. Firstly, the point made that you can't graduate beyond your neighborhood. Your neighborhood has to remain central. So this point about strategic neglect is something we should bear in mind. And secondly, as Mr. Dulat says, you cannot not engage with your neighbors regardless of the intensity of the problem or the provocation you think you are facing. So on that note, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and have a good lunch.
Thank you so much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a military band performance by Indian Navy in the multi-purpose hall. May I request all of you to please go and witness that band performance. We shall reassemble here at 1355 hours for the next session. Thank you so much.
Last year, this is a central day.
Do you see with his phone?
Oh, I didn't buy it because it was heard your. Yeah. Hi, how are you? How are you? All well?
I'm good, sir.
Well conducted, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
What a nice thing.
Rahul, so can I get a photo with you?
Yeah. I'm from ONGC Energy Center.
From?
ONGC Energy Center.
Acha.
Can I get a card contact? Mail or WhatsApp?
Yeah, you can email me.
Sorry, can I get a card as well?
Yeah, sure.
And so a photo as well. With you again, if you don't mind.
Okay, sure.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. So these are my friends. We'll get a
From
photo.
South Asia University?
Yes, sir.
Come.
Sure, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Exactly. Open the
मैं तो सोफे पे बैठ के वॉच कर रहा हूँ और जना को भागना पड़ रहा है छोटे छोटे बच्चे पहली बार से
I get involved in many
प्रॉमिस है ऐसे थोड़ी ना
चलिए
सर आप खाइए खाना
There is another discussion. And of course we have
Still recovering.
What is the country side? What is the country side?
Yes, yes, of course. In your name, you say social media. Thank you, thank you. All the best.
Just take this. I didn't hear this at all.
Thank you, thank you. Are you writing the exam?
Yes, sir. I have written a couple of times.
Wonderful, wonderful. So many years.
I work in the
Okay.
Yeah, but
She's a very good friend of mine. I see. I see. What's your name?
Actually, it's a pity. वो तो ठीक है जबकि चीफ मिनिस्टर भी बना दिया बट कश्मीर से पता नहीं these are politics. चलता रहता है. Mr. Matthew, sir.
Right, sir.
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, thanks, sir.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much. So this is like a fan.
Wonderful. Very happy to hear that.
Okay.
Sure. Let's have one at a time. So each one get a separate one. Is this your camera? Yeah, so give your camera. So otherwise you won't. Yeah, sure.
I got this from the vetting community here.
Put out the book. Okay. I'll do the same.
Very nice.
Thank you so much, sir. All the best. Where are you currently?
South Asian University.
Oh, SAU. Wonderful.
So we would love to have
Did you have a Pakistani student they were planning to get?
No, so I think because of the reason.
And a professor?
We met a professor a couple of years ago.
Because I had strongly recommended getting Pakistani students there. But then they said at least Pakistani faculty like it.
No, sir, absolutely not.
No
it's,
Pakistani
no, sir,
faculty.
no, absolutely. I think so. There is one person, but he's almost done with his PhD.
Okay.
Apart from him, there is no one.
Yeah, we should. I think, you never know, these things change. In a few years, things can happen. You have some Afghans?
Yes, we have lots and lots.
There's one place to put them.
So how do we connect with you?
Sure, I'll give you my card.
It's a good one.
Can I get one Singapore?
Those are
Yeah, sure.
Zinda Raat
Right.
Okay.
Wonderful.
There's a lot to
I'm glad.
know.
Okay, yeah.
Where are you from?
And so one photo with your hand.
You learn.
Okay. All right.
I know this is
God will understand things.
All right. Wonderful. All the best. All the best. See you. No, don't do that. You're getting. Yes, please. You've got all my
If we
blessings.
don't
and
meet
everything.
earlier than with Peter Jones.
Yes, sir. Are you going to Muscat next week? There's there are about 27 track tours, so we can make a living.
I only survived with Peter Jones. Yeah, you could make a living. Once Shankar Menon was the NSA, he said, what do you want these things? I said, for fun.
Exactly. See
meet friends, enjoy yourself.
Talk of Pakistan and see the world.
See the world.
Yes, absolutely.
Chalo. See you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Shanaji,
Excuse me, sir. So can I get a photo of you as well, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Why not? There's somebody to take photos. Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
I can't leave without photograph with my.
Sure. What are you with OBL or Energy Center? Oh. My details.
I thought you were part of it.
No, I'm just the boss.
Okay, all the best.
Oh, thank you.
You look angry, don't look angry.
I'm not angry. Actually, making the past release of
Okay, all the best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
I came with
Thank you.
colleagues and we were the first ones to do this.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
You have a very interesting page what people back on social media. Thank you, sir.
Where are you?
Right now.
आज का जो इम्तिहान है इन्होंने दिया है इम्तिहान Let me find out. Bengali will tell you how to get it.